that you give the credit to, if you walked into the room knowing that you couldn't be a made man because you had no Italian blood,
Right.
and they put a gun to your head and they pulled the trigger twice and it clicked each time and misfired twice.
There's only one explanation.
There's only one explanation. James Rodriguez
He
set
was
up.
like an
He
Oswald.
was a patsy. He was another Oswald.
Never had a gun.
I wanted to stay the same as I was because you never knew when you're just going to have to kill somebody.
Yeah.
And when you're going to fight, and I've had guys come to me with shanks to kill me.
One of the things everybody always says is, who shot JFK?
And I'll never meet you personally, but I'm asking for your forgiveness, and I hope you'll forgive me for being the way I was and for what I did to disrupt your life. She said, did you really shoot JFK? And I said, yes, I did. She says, you are crazy. She says, but would you shoot President Obama? And I told her, I said, honey, for the right price, I'd shoot anybody.
Hello, friends. Welcome to this episode of the Todd Wagner Show. We're about to relaunch this and introduce you to lots of interesting conversations with people from all across the spectrum of leadership in this world that we're in and helping you understand life from a biblical worldview. But this particular show is going to be very different than almost every other one that we're going to do because of both the rough way that it was filmed. It's very raw. We're filming it in the home of some friends in an undisclosed location that they invited us in because they were willing to share their story. And the story is raw. Again, the production is what it is. So it'll look very different from other things that we do in the future. And the story is unlike probably any you've ever heard. I'm going to talk to my friend, Jim Sutton, whose name has been changed to Jim Files. As I said, in the Midwest, in a location that we're not really privileged to share with you, because Mr. Files' claim is that he was the one that shot President John Kennedy in 1963 in Dealey Plaza. There's so much more to his story. This story has been checked out by people who are involved with the FBI and other branches of government, other three-letter agencies as you were. And he's written numerous books. And through a really unusual series of circumstances, he and I first made contact about 15, 16, 17 months ago. And we finally got to a place where we could talk today. It's a really interesting time given that our current president and his administration are about to release information about the JFK files, the MLK and the RFK files, something he also refers to in this conversation. We weren't up there to verify this story. We were up there to talk about something that Jim Files would tell you is the most important thing about his life right now. And that is not that he was involved with black ops with our government or part of the naval birthing program or part of training for the Bay of Pigs and a bunch of other stories that you'll hear more about, or even the fact that he was involved with JFK assassination. But it's about how he was involved with another conspiracy, the Jesus conspiracy, that he was crucified, dead, buried, and resurrected on the third day, and how that can change the life even of assassins or of people who misrepresent truth. It's up to you to decide what Mr. Files, what Mr. Files says is true or not. But more important, it's up to you to decide whether or not you think the story of Jesus is true. Believe me, you can dismiss this podcast, but you better not dismiss that particular claim in history, that there was a man who was born whose name was Jesus Christ, and how you respond to him will determine and become the pivot point between heaven and hell. All right. There's a lot to talk about today. Appreciate you working with us through the rawness of the production, and I hope you wrestle with the raw truth, the claims of Christ and the claims of Jim Files. Welcome. Hope you enjoy the show. Okay. Well, here we are in a little quiet town outside of Chicago, and I'm sitting with my new friends, James and Pam Files. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah. We've already had just, 45 minutes? Thank you. We've already had about just 45 minutes of just great conversation. And let's not bury the lead, as they say, right? And so, Pam, I'm going to let you start. You said you're here in Chicago. When you showed up, why did you show up in this area, right? Would you say was the purpose wherever you are?
To share the Lord.
Yeah, talk to people about the Lord, which is kind of how we met, right? We, your son and I became friends, and in a crazy way, he began to just he asked me what there was to do in Dallas, and I go, well, Dallas is the mountains, doesn't have an ocean, But one of the things I think is interesting to do is you probably ought to take your kids down there. Dealey Plaza, one of the most famous events in American history, happened down there in Dallas, and he goes, "What are you talking about, Dealey Plaza?" I go, "Well, the Kennedy assassination." And he goes, well, I'll have to tell you sometime my connection with the Kennedy assassination. That's literally what he said. And I go, sure. So we spent 3 more days together in Dallas, and it never came back up. And then we're at dinner, and we were talking. And he goes, oh, so the Kennedy thing. Want me to tell you my connection with the Kennedy story?
How did he say that?
Just like that. And I go, sure. And then he started talking about his mom, and about you walking into a church library one day and grabbing a book. What was the book? There it is. Show us the book.
High treason, assassination of President John F. Kennedy. What really happened?
And you read the book, and then what?
I took it back to the pastor, and I told him, hey, what really happened isn't good, and we need to talk about this and let people know what really happened. That we had a coup d'etat in our government, and it was overthrown by military, the CIA, the FBI, the Chicago mob.
I've never even heard of this book, but that was not a small, quick read, right? That's quite the book. But let's see what it says here. It was written by Robert Groden
and Harrison
Livingston. Anyway, you read this whole thing, and you said we gotta tell people. Your pastor said something about, hey, don't get involved with conspiracy theories because
it'll wreck your life.
Your life.
Should have listened to him.
Okay, fast forward a few years, you're walking to Blockbuster.
I walk into the Blockbuster, and I'm looking through all the dumb movies that I don't really want to watch, and then there's a special interest section, and I'm like, oh, what's special? Let's go see what's going on down there. And so at the bottom shelf, right next to How to Grow Roses, I see this, and I saw that same cover. I'm like, JFK, Confession of an Assassin. What is that? So the actual chilling confession of James Files taped at Joliet State Penitentiary. I hit him from the front. I was one of the 2 men. And then I was reading this. I'm like, oh, I need to check this out and watch this. So I did. I checked it out and watched it.
And
because I knew that I had the upper echelons kind of figured out what really happened. But the guy that actually pulled the trigger, I'm like, what? How's that still happening? Because I thought he'd be long gone by now. Anyway, I watched it at the end of the taping. Bob Vernon, the interviewer, asked James Files, you've been around death, violence, killing, all your life. Do you believe in God? And he's like, I guess so. I find myself praying to him when I'm on a hilltop surrounded and there's no way out. Yeah, I guess I believe in God. And then he had earlier on the tape talked about just, the FBI captured him and tortured him, leaving him for dead and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, God still got him for a reason. I mean, he needs to know who the Savior is, because he obviously doesn't, and he needs a chance. He's still here. Give him a chance. So I wrote the letter, and I just said, hey, thank you for telling the American people the truth, because I didn't think, we'd ever really hear from the guy that was involved, the truth. And then he wrote back. I was like, I didn't even think he'd get the letter. I just, kind of figured out, just send it to a prison over in Illinois. And they got it, and they wrote back, and then he's, saying that, what happened when you first got my letter?
Yeah, you're sitting next to this man, married to him.
The letter, and that's home before I even opened it. I just felt there's something, it was like an electric shock went through me or something that felt it.
Wow.
And he gets a lot of mail. He was getting a lot of mail.
But this one, the Lord kind of gave you a message. Hey,
and I just wanted to share the Lord with him. I wasn't looking for a boyfriend in prison. My goodness, that's not good thinking.
Give me a year. 2003, 4? When did that happen? When did that letter get written?
1999.
Oh, you wrote the letter.
February of 1999. I watched this in late 1998. 1999.
Yeah.
26 years ago.
Wow.
Wrote that letter, and then he wrote back, and then in July of 1999, who came to your cell?
Jesus Christ, this is when he first visited me. There was his first visit to me.
Okay,
and
tell me about that.
I woke up, and a lot of the inmates the following day, they told me it was a dream, and I told them no, it was real. Because I believed it was real. Jesus Christ came into my cell.
What did he tell you?
Woke me up, and I'm sitting on the side of the bed talking to him. And I asked him, why are you here? Are you doing time or what? And he said, no, the Father sent me. And I asked him why, and he said, the Father said that I should tell you that the only way to the Father is through me, Jesus Christ.
And he told you were an unbeliever.
Yes, he told me that I was an unbeliever. And
well, in addition to being maybe the man who potentially, who killed John Kennedy, you're maybe the only man in history who wondered if Jesus was in jail because he was doing time. That'll tell you were a non-believer. You didn't know who you were talking to there, James.
So we talked for a while about several different things, and so I believed, and I started believing. I believed in the Father. Well, a few weeks went by, and I brought it back to my old self again, fighting. You looked the wrong way. We're going to fight. We're going to battle it out. And I put a few people in the hospital when I first got to Stateville. And so Jesus got back a second time to see me.
How many days later was it? Do you remember?
I remember, I think it was probably 6 weeks.
Okay, right.
And I woke up and I asked him, I said, Chips, why are you back here? And he said, the Father sent me here to tell you to get your life in order. And I says, why? And he says, the Father is going to call you home soon. And I said, when? And he said, only the Father knows that. He said, I don't know. He said, only the Father knows. And so the next day, I went to chow hall, man, I loved everybody. I didn't hate anybody. And so this one black guy, a bear friend of mine, he was doing 6 life sentences. And he said, I cut it out. He said, it's only a dream. He said, don't tell me that. He said, I don't want to hear it. And I said, no, for real. I said, so go ahead and slap me. I turn and you slap the other cheek. And he said, if I slap one, he said, you'll kill me. And I grabbed him by his ears like, and I pulled him forward and we banged heads together. And the guard shook him up so much in the guard tower up above us in the round tower in the chow hall, they had the shotgun on us. He dropped his shotgun and fell to the floor. And I said, oh, Bear and me, so we're brothers, we're friends. And he said, sure didn't sound like it. So,
Wow.
well, you know, we're laughing about it and everything. He said, Bear got it? And he said, man, I said, now you want to slap my cheek? And he said, no, I still ain't got to slap your cheek. I said, okay. But I believed in Jesus, and I started trying to lead a good life after that, and I stopped a lot of the fighting and everything else.
Wow.
But you said you weren't going to follow him in prison in case you had to kill somebody.
I didn't say I
And you
wouldn't
didn't
tell
want to
him.
have to break your
What I
word.
said was I wouldn't give him my promise I was going to be good and not kill anybody.
So you didn't understand what being saved was about.
Christmas,
Because it's not about promising to be good.
Jesus Christ there as a Christian, I wanted to stay the same as I was because you never knew when you're just going to have to kill somebody.
Yeah.
And when you're going to fight, and I've had guys come to me with shanks to kill me,
Yeah.
and I'd take the shank of it from them, and so forth and so on. And I survived 20, like I said, there for 22 years. In the last 2 years I did at Danville, I was there 22 and a half years at Stateville. 6 years in the county jail, or 6 months in the county jail. I mean, not 6 years, 6 months. But it totals 25 years. And I did every day of the 25 years.
Wow.
Then when I got out, my plan was to go to Hawaii and live with Pamela. And we still were in a sailboat to the sunset somewhere. And I was out of the mob, and I decided I wanted to stay out of it. And even when I got out, they offered me a job back at $100,000 a year plus bonuses, tax-free. And that's good money. And
That was in 2016.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I told them, forget it. I said, I don't want to get involved in this. I got the FBI all over me. So they follow me everywhere I go. I'm not going back to prison. And so I started trying to live a good life. And they tried to kidnap me. And I think it's 72nd or 71st in the Cicero at the shopping mall. And I put 200 guys in the hospital.
You put 200 guys?
Two guys.
Two guys. Thank you.
And
I thought you were Samson for a second.
well,
Okay.
In the white van, those guys that tried to kidnap you?
yeah, in the white van. And so I knew that they was following me, so I figured they was going to try something since they had the van. And so I went in the parking lot, and I walked over to the far side, but there wasn't many cars, and I'm walking down the center of the aisle. And they pulled up behind me, and I took one step sideways over, so they pulled right up even with me. So when they opened the door, they went to grab me. They was off balance. And I grabbed each one of them by their shirts or their coats, and I yanked them out of the van. And I took both of them down in just a matter of seconds. And the one guy had this knife open and on his eye, I was cussing him out, calling him all kind of names. Told him I was going to cut his eye, make him swallow it, and then said, and the guy in the van, he drove up and he hit me in the back end and the butt and knocked me over that guy. I jumped up and ran around, and he jumped out from under the circle. The other side as I put my fist through the window that he had rolled up.
This is in 2016.
Yeah,
Okay, so
2016.
you're not a young man. That was 9 years ago. So you're
Yeah.
And I didn't know all this was
You're
going on.
64.
When I got out of prison, I was still walking. When I got out of prison, I was walking anywhere from 25 to 35 miles a week. And I was in good shape. And I'd stopped at quite a few of the federal agents and made them show me their ID. And
So who do you think was in that van? Was that CIA, FBI? Who was that?
FBI. Because when I got out of Danville, I had to buy my own bus ticket back to Chicago by the Grand Bus Station. It was outside a sandwich shop, and I think it was a Subway. And so I'm sitting there meeting, and so see two guys, a white guy, a black guy, and a white woman. They come walking up to him, and I know right away, but you look at them, they're FBI. And so we just want you to know who we are, and they show me their ID. They said, we want you to know we're going to keep an eye on you. And they're not supposed to get their pictures made. The woman threw her arm around me like this. She said, make my picture with Mr. Files. So they snapped a picture of her and me together. And I got on the bus, and that day one, the first time I was able to leave the transition center, I was able to go out 2 days a week starting out. And from 8 o'clock in the morning till 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I had to be back in. But I could go out and walk through I wanted. And that was all over this when the guy called me. He begged me not to go walking in Inglewood because being white, they said they would kill me for being white.
And who calls you though? You said
The guy in the transition center, he called me over. He didn't want me to go walking.
Okay, the guy,
But he begged me not to go out.
Yeah.
And so I didn't care. So I stayed there for, I think it's 105 days altogether.
Now you guys have been riding
Supposed to sit
at that point for almost 20 years.
Okay, when I visited him in September of 2000
In jail.
in jail, first time I'd ever met him, right as soon as we got in the visiting room, not too many minutes after we sat down, he was on the floor on his knee, and I was like, did you drop something? What are you doing? And he's on his knees, and he holding my hand, and he's looking up in my eyes and asking me, if I ever get out of prison, will you marry me?
And I didn't figure to get out.
I didn't either. So I said, yeah.
So you felt like it was an easy ask and an easy yes. Because you never thought it would happen.
If it's what the Lord wants
There
me
you
to
go.
do.
Good answer.
And so
Yeah.
when he first got out, I knew that he got out because they tell me on the, I made like I'm a victim or something, and I have to be notified as soon as somebody gets let out of prison.
yes.
So as soon as they sent me that email that he was out, I knew he was out. But he had already said that he wasn't sure what was going to happen, and he didn't want me in any danger to be around all that. So he got out in May of 2016. I didn't get here till October of 2017. But in all that time, I wasn't hearing all these fun stories about his attempts on, life. People trying to kill him, shooting at him, and and then he was on parole, and he wasn't supposed to be, and the whole thing was I was supposed to have him come to
My parole was
Maui.
at 105th and Grove Avenue. And I was the only white guy within a couple of miles of the place. You know what I mean?
And they told you that the reason that they put you there was
To get me killed.
Yeah, they thought they would take care of you. Well,
Stable couldn't kill me.
so let me. Well, you're right. Our days are numbered by the Lord, right? And until He's done with us.
Good Lord, he looked after me there.
And this is what, James, let me tell you. There's a reason, and you said this. There's a reason you're still alive. We're in 2025, and look. And I think you'll understand when I say this, right? Because I don't know what's true, right? I mean, we've had an incredible hour together, and
Well,
just
I've got quarter records to back everything
I-
up
I
and
be-
the whole shot.
I believe you. But what I'm just saying is, look, the Lord redeems men, right? God demonstrates His love while we're still sinners. Christ died for us. So whether you killed Kennedy, you're deluded, you're a liar, the Lord dies for men like us. And one of the reasons we're alive today, right, is to give testimony to Him, right? So we know you've been in prison, all these different stuff. The stories you told about the FBI torturing you for 2 days, leaving you dead in a dumpster, right? And the other stories that we've talked about and the things that you've written about and shared. At the end of the day, like, we don't want to bury the lead, right, James? You are like Pam and I, right? When did you come to a place that you knew, right, with all that you have done, and you've said, tell them about the story about the attorney that sat next to you, that in some film that was about your life.
Yeah.
What film was that?
It wasn't about my life. It was about the Kennedy case.
Oh, okay, good. So what film was it? Do you remember?
I have a poster
called
where
it
it says I shot JFK.
Yeah, where's the poster?
No, wait, I killed Kennedy.
Is it the one that Mr. West made? I mean, Miss Vernon?
It's right over here.
Okay, go get it. But anyway, so you were at the screening of this movie, and the guy asked to sit next to you.
Yeah,
And he said to you, I want to sit next to you because I want to ask you questions.
right.
And one of the questions he asked you was, how many people have you killed?
Yes, he asked me how many people I killed, and I just looked at him. And I says, what do you mean? Do you mean in the military and firefights? how many times I called in air support for napalm to be dropped on the enemy, how many people I killed for the organization in Chicago,
Right.
or how many people I killed working death squads. I says, there's no way to count them up.
Wow. So,
Because in Chile, we
in
were told,
2016, May 31st, 2016. It doesn't say it, but that's when it was.
who produced that movie? Who?
what's his name?
Barry Katz.
Yeah, Barry Katz.
Yeah. Is that movie still available for us to watch?
I'm not sure, but he I think I even have a copy of it over there.
Yeah. Do you like that movie?
This is the one that they did the round table after, right? Yeah, that one.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's leave that for a second. Let me.
There was this movie too, but we're not going to give somebody in the Netherlands any advertising.
I hope she will notify you about the filming we did in Dallas a year ago.
You know what? You were going to stay at our house, so we were out of town. We invited you to anyway. Yeah, The Shocking Truth. Wow, look at that. And that's another movie you said? Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. I'm going to get you just to scoot a little left again there, Pam, when you're done with that, because we're going to grab some more of that stuff in a second. But I think, so let me just go back through this. I mean, in the midst of that, again, James, without a doubt, the most notorious crime in the history of Western civilization, probably, right? I mean,
I wouldn't say it was the most notorious, no.
Yeah, why not? What would you say is?
So, I think the Valentine's Day massacre of Al Capone was the most vicious one.
Okay, but notorious by that I mean is that has the most
Impact
notoriety.
on everybody.
That everybody's talking about that. I was doing a Q&A with a group of young adults in Dallas Friday. And I always play this game with people like, hey, when you stand before the Lord, what question do you want to ask? And everybody, one of the things everybody always says is, who shot JFK? Right? They want to know. No, it always comes up, right? They want to know about, they want to ask questions about how far is too far in a dating relationship if they're single, and they want to know about understanding predestination and election and end times, and they want to know who shot JFK. All right,
Okay.
but here's what I would say: I want the man who shot JFK to know for certain that he has peace with God.
Yeah.
Amen.
Amen.
And does that man have peace with God?
Yes, he does.
Yeah. And on what basis, James? If you killed all those people,
Every night I've asked forgiveness. And I've asked him to forgive me for the crimes that's going on, to repent for the crimes that I've done, the people I hurt, the people I deceived, and everything else.
Yeah.
And that I want to be saved. I want to sit at his footstool in heaven.
Amen.
And the foot of his throne.
And you
And
keep going. Sorry.
I pray this every night. I prepare forgiveness, and I thank him for extending my life to this age, and ask him to extend it just a little bit longer. That I got some medical problems coming up. And like Queens, I'm going in for minor surgery. They're going to cut a tumor out. Big deal. And what the doctors tell me, all my organs in my body are bad anyway, so I know I don't have long for it.
So we just turned 83 at what,
Yeah.
2 weeks ago Friday or something? It was recently.
Friday the 24th of January.
Yeah, January. We turned 83, and thank you so much again for welcoming me. I'm gonna go back. So James, you like me, right? I mean, if you confess with your mouth Jesus is Lord, believe in your heart that God raiseth the dead, you will be saved.
Yeah.
Right? For the heart man believes, resulting in righteousness. With the mouth man confesses.
And I was reading a tract that she
Resulting
gave me
in
yesterday,
salvation.
and I got this feeling that come over me. And this one party has cut out of my life for the past year. And I got another good friend there in Houston, Texas, that's on dialysis. And so I've asked for these tracts so I can send one to the guy in Houston that's on the dialysis machine to try and save him, and he's Catholic. And the one in Ohio is Catholic also. And I'd like to have him read it and repent. I just felt that I need to give these to somebody. And there's only two people I really know that I really talked to.
Wow.
Or I only talked to the one, actually, because the one's been out of my life for a year. I'd like to send them the tracts, and
This is the first time in 26 years I've ever heard him where he wants to share his faith with other people.
That's awesome, James.
And it's a little chick tract, says that he never told us.
Yeah.
And it's, one of those powerful chick
to
tracts.
me yesterday.
And he finally read it, and
It's all something that me had never felt before.
And the Lord, in your experience, is that you had a vision or an experience where you felt like the Son of God told you got to reconcile yourself to the Father, and it's through me. And let's just say this, because people are going to watch this because they're curious about your story, but the story they need to know, right? Again, these words are true.
These words
Right.
are true.
These things John wrote I have written to you who believe, that you might know you have eternal life. He who has the Son has the life. He who does not have the Son does not have the life. Right? And James Files, do you have a relationship with Jesus Christ?
I think I do. I believe in it.
Amen. Well, I do too, by faith, brother. And so, look, here's what's crazy. I think if God can redeem a man with your story, with the Chicago outfit, with the CIA, with the assassination of a president, who can he redeem? And that is a story worth telling. Yeah. All right? So I'm going to finish the fun story that happened with your son. All right?
Okay.
So he said, well, so here's the deal. My mom started writing this guy who was in jail, and he claimed to have shot Kennedy. I go, wait, what? And he goes, well, it goes a little crazier. My mom ended up marrying that guy. And I said to him, your dad shot JFK? And he goes, no. I go, wait, didn't you just tell me your mom's married to this man? I go, your dad shot JFK. And he goes, it's not my dad. I go, oh, your mom's married to him. That's your dad. So, James, I'm telling you, if you'd have put on a pinwheel 100 names of the most notorious, like the Abominable Snowman, Bigfoot, and then every living famous person, from current presidents to past presidents that I could talk to. And one of the people on the wheel was the guy who shot JFK. I go, if I could talk to one of them that night, I go, I'm going to talk to that guy. So I said, well, have you ever talked to him? And you know what he said?
What did he tell you?
I've never really talked to him about it. I said, well, let's get on the phone. And do you remember that night I called you?
Uh-huh.
Baby,
we were still in Dallas, right?
No, you weren't in Dallas yet. This was like October. This was a month before
we were
you got
coming
there.
to Dallas.
And we got on the phone that night, and then you got on the phone with me, and we talked. And I actually called a friend who had, because I asked you about some people involved in New Orleans that he thought were involved, and you walked me through and said, no, it wasn't the New Orleans people that were involved.
Yeah.
Right. And you said it was done with Chicago people, and we talked about Giuliano, we talked about Nicoletti, and we talked
Tony
about
Ricardo.
Yep, Tony Ricardo, who was the head at the time, and so anyway, we just had that conversation. We talked for a good 45 minutes, and I said, hey, well, you're coming in town. It was the 60th anniversary of JFK, and you came to Dallas.
Yeah,
we were out of town. I forget where we were. Do you remember where we were? Yeah, but we were out of town. But I said, stay with us, but we didn't get to. But here I am today, just outside Chicago.
Amazing.
You guys.
I was sitting there signing some books that afternoon. Was there? I think it was on Thursday, and this guy comes up to me. He leans over and he whispers in my ear. And he told me, he said, if I had my gun, he said, I would shoot you.
Wow.
I told him, I said, why don't you go home and get it? I'll still be here when you get back.
So fear has not been something, I don't know. Have you experienced fear in your life?
Oh, I probably have. I think the worst fear I had was one night I was jumping out of an airplane at 35,000 feet. I had like a 3-minute air bottle. And I opened the door and I thought I was doing a one-on-one. I was going into Eastern Europe. And I felt, well, maybe I'll get lucky. Maybe I might shoot one open tonight. Yeah. Because I knew if I got caught on the ground, I was in for a good torture session. Yeah. So,
what about the night at the plane ajar, jar of planes, that place?
Yeah. Had a lot of things happen. But
where it was so confusing that they couldn't tell who the enemy was.
The nighttime, you'd be sitting back to back with your buddy and you couldn't see nobody. It was dark. There was no moon. There was no stars. Fog was in, and if I could see from here to you, I was lucky.
Where was this?
It was in Laos.
Laos, yeah.
And that was in 1959, 1960, yeah. And so we as in a firefight, we wouldn't even use our guns that night. Shouldn't say firefight, we was more in a knife fight. We kill everybody with a knife because the flash in the gun would give your position away. And then they would you'd lose out then.
You know who you're grabbing.
You don't ever know you're killing friend or foe.
Yeah, well.
But one of the more amusing little stories is when I was at Stateville, they brought a bunch of law students through there, and I ran the print shop at Stateville. And so the kids wanted to come over and they wanted to ask me questions, and there's going to be lawyers and stuff, prosecutors. And so I answered a couple of questions, but this guy, for this girl, that guy, this one little black girl, she used to Mr. Fowles. She says, can I ask you a question? And I says, yes. She said, did you really shoot JFK? And I said, yes, I did. She says, you are crazy. She says, but would you shoot President Obama? Oh. And I told her, I said, honey, for the right price, I'd shoot anybody.
Well, Not anymore?
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. Those days are gone.
Yeah, because you said when you got to prison, the outfit offered you a job again.
And I turned it down. I wanted to marry Pamela, and I wanted to start a new life over. And where I was at, I didn't want her to come over right then with me being stuck in Englewood. But anytime I went to rent a place, it was like a friend of mine sent a check for $10,000 for me to use if I needed to go buy a trailer home, a mobile home. So I found a nice one, and I'm looking at it, and we're in the office, and so Bruce Braychick, he's been in several of the videos about me, and I looked over and told this woman my name and everything. She got on the computer, and all of a sudden, she started yelling and screaming to get out of there, leave. She said, "You ain't living here." She said, "We ain't selling you that trailer." I tore the check up, and Bruce Braychick, he asked me, he said, "What the heck did you say to that woman to get her so excited?" Said, "She had a meltdown." I said, "All I told her was my name, and she put it in the computer."
One thing that I wasn't aware of when I got here and before I started writing Primary Target, JFK, how the CIA...
Get that book. I think people need to know about that book. I will tell you, folks, I have read that book, or the large percentage of it. Yeah, most, not all of it, but most of it. And I will tell you, that is a opus right there. That is a life work. And I love the Q&A you put in there.
Oh, yeah.
On people.
Because that's when he was in prison, people want to know.
And I love the little short biographies you have of everybody at the back.
Okay, the one that I was going to mention that I didn't know about, it's the first character here, cast of characters, James Files. And he started telling me about his life growing up and going to Camp Hero and being... in a special Navy birthing program that his mom was put in, and that's how we came about.
Okay, so that's something I want to talk to you about. Okay,
and that predisposed him to be a government-trained, raised, born and bred assassin, where he checked in every day with these guys.
Okay, so let's talk about that. You talked about our government looking to breed the perfect soldier. There's 123 boys they put in the Navy birthing program.
Right.
Mobile, Alabama.
And did they inseminate your mother? Or
Yeah, they inseminated her, yeah.
And we don't know who the father is.
No. They put me in a milkshake. They put a bunch of DNA in the milkshake in the test tube and shook it up and inserted it.
Okay, was it your mother's egg or was it a different egg?
That's what I want to know, too.
I don't know.
Okay.
So my mother's dead.
So you're saying what year were you born, sir?
42.
42.
January.
It was in 41.
So it wasn't just the Germans that were interested in a superior race. America was trying to...
We was down on the Germans for trying to create the perfect Nazi soldier. And the United States was doing the same thing the Germans was doing.
So how does this is the book. I have it on a Kindle. But how did you come to know there was 123 men like you?
Well, when I got to class, there's 123 of us were enrolled at Camp Hero there in the one class.
Okay. So you never went to...
it was crazy.
Some of the people that question your story,
yeah.
One of the things they say is that the man's 17, what's he doing to allow us? That's a special forces. And because you've been being trained to be a warrior.
Since he was 8 years old. His mom started putting him on the Greyhound bus from Melrose Park all the way over to Long Island. And he would go by himself and be there for months on end.
Okay, from Melrose to Long Island, is that Chicago?
No, in New York.
Okay, so Melrose.
Montauk Island.
Oh, Montauk.
Yeah.
I was in Melrose. Menlo's where you grew up, though.
Melrose.
Sorry. I thought you said Melrose. You didn't. You said Montauk.
Yeah.
From Montauk to...
Melrose Park, Greyhound bus over to Long Island, Montauk.
Okay.
Over there.
Okay. And so that's
where Camp Hero was.
And that's Camp Hero. That's where you were trained as a young man.
8 years old, knew how to kill.
Training at 8.
And that's where you started to learn about everything from explosives, ballistics. There's, I'm sure, a lot of physical.
By the time I was 10 years old, I could throw a knife 30 to 40 feet and hit a target of a man and the kill zone every time.
And then
10.
And then when did they introduce guns and whatnot to you?
Well, I learned the guns at the same time as learning to throw a knife.
Yeah.
You learned how to shoot a gun when you were a little kid.
But I'm saying no, but that started training with weapons at the Camp Hero. But as a youngster, 5, 6 years old, I was used to taking the .22 rifle and going out to the woods and sitting beneath the trees before daylight, right before daylight. And you'd hear the squirrels rustling in the leaves up above you. And as soon as it got light, I'd shoot a couple of squirrels for breakfast.
Okay, so James, one of the things that part of the story is one of the things that I read that I go, what?
I know. I didn't know about that.
And so
We was poor people. We didn't have anything back then.
No, he's talking about Camp Hero now.
Oh, Camp Hero. And to your knowledge, you're the only of the 123 boys still alive.
14 of us graduated.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Now of the 14, I'm the only one that's alive that I know of.
Okay. And so they basically washed out, and they went back to normal civilian life.
No, we don't know where they went. They just disappeared.
They disappeared. Okay.
They disappeared. I think they was used at the Brookhaven laboratories, put in the Tesla chair and transported, but I don't know where. And
It's about
when I
MK Ultra stuff.
later on in life, as I pulled the TDY there, which is temporary duty,
Okay.
I pulled my temporary duty there. In Rome, I seen them where they put I call it a vase, they call it a vase. They'd set it on a table and they would make it disappear, but they couldn't bring it back. So government, whoever was running Brookhaven Laboratories.
So you were watching this.
Yes.
They'd put a vase on a table,
Yes.
and you would see it disappear.
Disappear.
And then
They had the Tesla coils in the room, the chair set up on a table like a platform, and they'd zero in on it, they'd make it disappear.
yeah.
Whether the Philadelphia experiment ever happened or not, I don't know, because I wasn't there for that one.
As far as the MK Ultra goes, that was over at Fort Meade. A little bit later, after the JFK assassination, he was getting further training and programming where they would have him go in a room and they'd put all these things on him, and then he'd listen to these tapes, and then he has like a couple years missing where he doesn't even
I
remember.
don't even remember.
And
Years missing.
and his best friend Gary Marlowe, the one that ended up shooting Tippett, the Raven, he was his best man at his wedding, and there's pictures of it. And he's kind of got some dazed look on his face, but he doesn't even remember being there.
Being at the wedding.
So, okay, we just dropped a few things in there.
I know, that's like his brain was
that
like
of
being
itself is-
conditioned.
Again, this Navy birthing program. Of the 14 boys that graduated, did you deploy with them when you guys graduated?
No, we went different ways. I don't know where they went. They don't know where.
When David Phillips walked into the Veterans Hospital over there in the suburbs of
later on.
Chicago, no,
After you got back from Laos,
Yeah.
where you met Phillips.
I was sent back to the hospital in Hines Hospital there in Broadview, Illinois.
because my understanding was you were a little bit too comfortable with the idea of death.
overkill.
Overkill.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, look, their nicknames are in the book. Sergeant Death, Dr. Death, Sandman, Killer, Assassin, Barefoot Hillbilly, Pat's Kid, The Kid, Sam, Sammy, Hank Sanders, John Atkins, Sergio Castillo.
Yeah.
So just some of the names.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But David Phillips walked in, and it didn't say James Sutton on the tab of the file. It had an X number. He was in X number.
Yeah.
And that's when he got recruited into the CIA, and then they went and took you down to Florida and introduced you to George Bush and Frank
First one I met was
Sturgis,
Frank Sturgis.
all those guys.
Did you remember the name Skipper?
No, I don't remember the name.
That's your dog.
No, my dog, yeah. I'm thinking of people. I ain't thinking of my dog, yeah.
Just messing with you. Look at that picture.
Mm-hmm.
That is a crazy. Look at that. That's a good looking little boy with a cute dog. And so you're how old there in that picture?
I don't know.
But you were going to Fort
I thought I
Camp
destroyed.
Hero.
I thought I destroyed all my pictures of me when I was young.
Where'd you get this, man?
He had it.
Okay, but let me ask you a question. How old are you? I mean, roughly, there looks like you're 12, 13 maybe?
Maybe, I don't know.
Do you
I think he's younger.
Yeah, I remember the Duck Skipper, yeah.
and
My Duck Skipper died in Kentucky.
but he died in Kentucky?
Yeah,
So how'd you get to Kentucky if you were in that school in New York, right?
well, it's later on in life. My mother was killed. I was in South America when my mother was killed in a car accident. And she'd called down there a few days before that. And she said, son, she says, please, she says, come home and see me. And I said, I can't come home now, Mom. I'm on assignment. I'm doing something. She says, I don't know what you're doing. She says, but whatever it is, she says, put it in a hole. She says, come home and see me. She said, I feel that I'm going to die. And I said, Mom, I just talked to Doc. He told me you're fine. You're going home to Martin Hospital. She went home to the hospital and got hit with a head-on collision and got killed.
Wow.
So I came home for the funeral. I didn't have time to come home and see her when she was alive, but I had time to come home when she was dead.
Yeah. How old were you then?
Let's see, 42, 52, 62. I think I was 23, 24 years old.
Okay. And did she ever know about your involvement with the outfit?
No.
She had no idea about Canada. You didn't tell anybody. That was one of the things, James, that you said. I think the biggest question people have, I have, like if you are the JFK killing, right, is why are you still alive? There is no way. And I know, so I want to talk about that for a second. But before I do that, this is what's so, I think my favorite story in the book that you tell is when you would go over to Giacono's house, San Giacono, and he would cook for you.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
Tell him the fish story.
What would he always, he'd cook the fish.
He'd be cooking a fish, or I'd take him shopping, and he'd be buying a fish. He'd say, and he'd hit me with his elbow. So, you see that fish? I said, yeah, Sam, what about it? Keep his mouth shut, be alive today.
Pretty good training right there. That's it. We're going to eat this dude because he didn't keep his mouth shut. Get the message there, little Jimmy? So, anyhow, so,
And his daughter, Antoinette, she used to come see me at Stateville.
She did.
Yeah, and that's on record, and that's recorded too.
Wow.
She wanted to know who killed her father, and Jim Files said that Johnny Roselli did it. She wouldn't believe him, but
Johnny had been killed as well because Johnny started talking, right?
Yeah, Johnny testified before Congress.
Before the church committee.
And for church committee or somebody, I don't remember which one. But I yelled at my ex-wife. We were still married to my previous wife at the time. I yelled at her, say, you want to see Johnny? Come and take a look at him. Baby's on TV. He's walking down the steps. And she said, I know what Johnny looks like. She said, I haven't met him. I said, yeah, but you ain't going to see him no more.
Yeah.
And I knew he was a dead man when he walked down them steps.
Yeah. And so they had, and that's the thing, like part of the deal with the CIA and the mob overlay is the CIA wanted the mob to do some of their work sometimes and blame it on the mob, right? And I think, that's your testimony.
Johnny was relations between the CIA and the mob.
And so he was in Dallas when Kennedy was shot. And why do you talk about why you think that was? Why do you think they sent Johnny to Dallas?
Well, he was with Chuck in the Daltech building.
No, the cover about Tosh and those guys flying in with the board game and all that, and then why Johnny wouldn't shoot.
So he was in the Daltech building with Chuck Nicoletti.
Yeah, that's why he was there.
But
he was the second. He was going to be secondary shooter. He was going to fire with Chuck.
But he did.
But the Lansdale had gotten it changed. We figured it was Lansdale that had changed because Lansdale wanted me there and I had already chosen to pick a fence. And Lansdale trusted me because I did several assignments for Lansdale, and I'd never blown one of them. Every one of them was complete. I got away with every one of them.
Wow. And so at the last minute, so there's two things not two things. One of the things that people say, that's the Remington, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the
fireball.
You said Lansdale, and another time you said Phillips gave you this. Did Lansdale give you this prior?
Phillips gave me that. Lansdale didn't.
But he told you to go use it somewhere in another country for the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
So Lansdale knew you could shoot that bad boy.
Yeah, he knew
He knew he wouldn't miss.
Yeah.
If he had one shot, he wouldn't miss.
How big is that gun? I see the picture, but is it as big as your arm, or how big is a Remington?
It's
fireball.
I don't know from the elbow out to the wrist here.
Yeah.
And it's got a scope on it. You don't really need a scope, but at 100 yards, it'll take a man's head off if you got the right load in it.
Well, it did from 80 feet, right?
And in 1969, I won't say who or where, but I took a Chinese general out at 1,400 yards.
Not with this.
Not with that, no. That was with the XM21. And after it had been proven and tested in the field, they removed the X, because the X is an experimental model, and it was called the M21, which was a modified M14.
So you said you shot a Chinese general from 1,400 yards.
Yeah, at that time. That was a hell of a shot at that time in 69. Today, we've got confirmed kills of 2 miles.
I know, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. So, all right, James. So when the day you were in Dallas, you didn't even know you were shooting. You were going to be involved. You were just driving.
I was a driver and a weapons bearer. I took several weapons to Dallas.
And until the morning of, Mr. I don't know the name.
Nicoletti, Charles Nicoletti.
No, not Nicoletti, but who's the guy that said, I want you, not Roselli, taking the shot? You said
General
Nicoletti.
And Lansdale.
But Lansdale showed up later, right before the assassination. But Chuck had asked me a couple hours prior to that.
Okay.
Because they'd already told Johnny Roselli he was going to back down, that he was not going to be the shooter. He was only going to pull his Chucky's brass as he checked it.
Okay, and so when you say they, who would have been the they that would have said it to Mr. Roselli?
That would have been Lansdale,
Lansdale. And so I don't know who Lansdale is. It was
General Lansdale. He was Air Force, yeah.
he was Air Force.
I'll always put it this way. He was Air Force, he was Army, he was whatever he wanted to be.
He worked for Alan Dulles.
We would walk into the Air Force base and we'd get with paperwork and we'd withdraw a couple of planes. And they used to crack because they knew they wasn't getting them back. And the first time he got me out, I went to Scotland to meet Lansdale.
I got it.
And I sit there at the Air Force base on the floor, my legs stretched out reading the manual. And somebody walked up and kicked my foot. And I was ready to get him to kick somebody's bottom end because they kicked him. But that was a challenge to me.
Right.
I looked up and here's a guy in uniform with all the salad on his blouse. And I looked at him. And I said, yeah. And he says, I hear you're a cowboy. And I said, you might say that. And he says, come to me. I got you for the next couple of weeks.
Wow.
And so I said, okay. So I got up off the floor, followed him. We went in. We got a couple of planes. We went out to the airfield and to the runway. And he looked at me and says, you can fly, can't you? And I told him, I said, now's one hell of a time to answer me.
So again, was that part of your training with this hero school?
No, Pop from Iowa,
Beale.
Newton.
Pop Beale.
Beale from Newton, Iowa. He's the one that taught me how to fly. And I cut my teeth on a DC-3.
Okay. But I mean, could you fly? Like what kind of plane did Lansdale put you in?
Lansdale. He didn't put me in a plane we're flying then was an old DC-3.
Okay.
But back then there was plenty of them around. That's what everybody used. They was a workhorse.
I got it.
And
So you never flew a jet.
I didn't plan a jet, no.
Okay. But you could like a prop and a Cessna.
Twin props, C-130s,
Oh, IFR, VFR. Which one? Could you?
either one.
Your VFR as well?
Either one, yeah.
Okay. So I'm just curious. Like all this. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, listen, you're 83, so you have been training to be a warrior since you were 8.
Yeah.
So I mean, your skill set's pretty impressive.
Well, I was back in 42. I was born January of 42. I was born 63. Kennedy was killed,
Yeah.
and I'd already carried out assassinations prior to that. And General Lansdale was the one that he mined the harbor there in Central America. I think it was Guatemala. Who mined at Guatemala Harbor.
Yeah. So General Lansdale, he was the one pretty much.
I really like General Lansdale.
And he was the one that made sure that Fletcher Prouty wasn't going to be on hand.
And that was around
And he sent him down to Antarctica because he knew Fletcher Prouty would have
never go
made the security arrangements for the motorcade.
So who's Fletcher Prouty? Who's that, sir?
He was
He was a Pentagon person,
Pentagon
but it kind of overlapped with the CIA.
he went
And in Oliver Stone's movie, he was Donald Sutherland, Mr. X.
Mr. X.
And so,
And you're saying Lansdale didn't trust him
no.
and pushed him away.
No.
Yeah. So let's
See-
talk about the JFK movie.
Excuse me, Fletcher Prouty would not bend the rules. He was straight book, straight military.
and how did you know Fletcher Prouty from Laos?
I knew Fletcher Prouty. I met in Laos. He was the general commander in Laos at the time on Operation Mobile White Star.
And he's the one
I
that
met
told
Lansdale in
you
Scotland.
or told that you were overkill to Ted Shackley, the CIA guy. It's like, here, you guys might want him.
Yeah.
When they interviewed him before he died, they interviewed him about me. And he said he was a good soldier. All I can say is he was involved too much in overkill.
You.
Yeah.
So Prouty's the one that recommended you back, and that really connected you with your handler,
David Phillips.
David Atlee Phillips. Yeah, and you said just to be clear, you said you met Lansdale, and you said Scotland.
Yeah.
Did you mean Scotland, or did you mean
Scotland Air Force
Scotland Air Force Base.
Okay, right here in Illinois,
Kirkland.
Kirk Newton.
It's not Scotland Air Force Base. It's Kirkland.
It was in Scotland. Anyway.
It's in Scotland.
I
Okay.
hadn't been back there since.
The Air
Okay.
Force Base.
Okay, but then you and Lansdale, and you liked Lansdale,
Yes.
and Lansdale was overseeing, basically calling the shots there in Dallas.
He was called the Kingmaker, and he'd been part of other things happening similar to that in Philippines,
Yeah.
Japan. He was his nickname was the Kingmaker.
The Kingmaker. And so Lansdale,
made LBJ king.
yeah, and we're gonna so there's two things. Don't let me forget. I'd like to talk about LBJ eventually, and I also want to make sure I don't forget. There was another little part of the story it was the Clinton stuff. I want to talk about that just briefly. But that you found out the morning of the 22nd that you were going to kill Kennedy. You didn't know before that.
About 10:30, I guess it was, when Johnny and me got back from Fort Worth.
Yeah, where you met Jack Ruby.
Yeah.
Do you remember the name of the place? I bet.
Yeah, the old South Pancake
I
House.
love the old South Pancake House. That's where I still eat in Fort Worth every time I go there.
I was there before it was moved. It was up there on the main highway, and they moved it down to about a block and a half.
Yep.
And
Now it's right
they
by
would
30.
do- Yeah.
Yeah, it's still my favorite breakfast place in Fort Worth.
But back then, it was the first time I ever had a Belgian pancake.
Oh, well.
Well, not that morning. I went there afterwards. I had the Belgian pancake. But the morning of the tour, I only had coffee, and Tony told me to watch his back like I was watching Chuck's back. And so if anything were wrong, he was going to be shot right there in the restaurant.
Yeah, because Johnny was there to meet with Jack Rubenstein,
Right.
who used to work with the Chicago mob.
Right. He got in trouble, and they sent him down to Texas.
And Ruby was there. What do you think Johnny was telling Ruby that morning?
He didn't tell him very much of anything.
Just touching base with him.
He sat down, and they had the envelope. What's his name? Had the envelope, Jack Ruby. And he slid it over to Johnny Roselli, slid it across the table to sit there, and they drank about half a cup of coffee. And then Jack Ruby got up and left, and then Johnny stayed right there at the table. I got up from where I was at because I was positioned away from him.
Yeah.
So I could have a clean line of fire on Jack Ruby in case something went wrong. I got up and walked out, and I watched Jack Ruby leave the parking lot, and I made sure there's nobody else in the parking lot. I started the car, pulled it up by the door, and Johnny Roselli come out, and he got in the car with me.
Wow. And then and Ruby, actually, you said there's some Secret Service credentials and the route of the presidential motorcade.
Yeah.
That's what you got that morning.
Right in the morning,
Because
Rudy change over the detour.
because Ruby had lots of contacts with people on the payroll
Yeah.
and the Dallas police.
Right.
Right. So that was okay. So that was 10:30. You driving back to Dallas, right? People that are skeptical, they say there's no way the mob this kind of hit. The mob's meticulous in planning its hits. It doesn't make those kind of calls that late in the day and trying to figure out, do we do the grassy knoll? Do we do the Dow Tech building? Do we do the depository?
Excuse me. See, a lot of people has the wrong idea
Yeah.
of how the mob plans to hit somebody. They don't make no plans. Here, go hit this guy. You walk in a restaurant, you put a gun to his head and you shoot him, or you catch him coming out of one of his porn theaters. They're on Cicero Avenue, and you walk in the parking lot, and when he's getting his Cadillac, you pop him in the head. How much planning did we do? The day before, Harry Allen and me drove through the parking lot where the porn theater was, and the next day we showed up in his red Cadillac, and instead of him driving through the parking lot, I got out of the parking lot. The guy walks in the theater. He doesn't recognize me. I woke up as he's getting his Cadillac, put the gun to his head, and put a half a dozen rounds in his head. I make sure he's dead.
But this
I walked through the parking lot to the alley, ran out of the alley, jumped in Harry Allen's red Cadillac, and away we went.
But this is the president of the United States.
Yeah.
And the same morning, like, okay, we're gonna do this. Here's the best spot, Daily Plaza. You here, me here. Because you were not.
You think you think the government called a mob in advance and told them to start planning 6 months in advance? No. When we get intelligence, like Pam asked me, she says, how did you do so many things in your life? I said, it's not like in the movies where you build a place, you plant a place, you go in, you train, and you do this. We've already trained. We can shoot. We can chop out of airplanes. We can rappel. We can do it all. I said, I'm sitting on my couch on a Sunday afternoon watching a football game. The phone rings. I pick up the phone, because I thought it was my buddy Kenny, man. Thought I was going to go somewhere, probably do something, play a couple of machines or go bet the horse or whatever. And I hear over the telephone, ETA is 2 minutes, or it's either 2 minutes or 3 minutes. Go bag, and that phone goes dead. So I jump up, I run in the bedroom, I grab my go bag, just got my shaving equipment, integration, everything, and ran back to that and yell at my ex-wife, yell at her, tell the kids I love them, hey, tell you, I'll see you later. She said, where you going? I don't know. When you coming back? I don't know. How long you going to be gone? I don't know. And running across the street to the National Guard, because the house is right in front of the National Guard driveway. The helicopter comes down, lands, I jump in the helicopter and leave. 36 hours later, I'm on the ground in what we call the Central Hemisphere, Central America. And I got the guy, and my target is in my crosshairs.
Yeah.
And that's 36 hours from the time I left my house.
And then your house at the time was in Melrose?
Yeah, in Broadview.
That's real close to where the Veterans Hospital that he got recruited out of.
And we was there.
How many men are there like you at this time, Jack?
I don't know.
I mean,
but me was all over Chicago looking for a good, what do you call them?
Cannoli.
Cannolis, yeah. And
I had a good cannoli at Mr. Meeks.
this house, the bakery's a block, only a block
The Vesuvio Bakery on, what is that, Cicero?
It's on 22nd Street, Cermak Avenue. So I was driving by there one day, oh my God, I forgot all about this place. They got the best cannolis in town.
Okay, I'm just gonna tell you, most of these, not all of these stories, because we're talking about stuff I haven't read, but this book,
It's all in there. Yeah.
all the details of these names, and forgive me, I'm going to say his name wrong. Is it Lansdale? Is that the
General Edward Jerry Lansdale.
is his name in here?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't read that particular one yet, or I guess I missed it. But anyway, all these stories, Pam, this is your life work of keeping, just living with a man, being married to this man, and asking a lot of them. James, thank you for recording this, and Pam, you did a great job.
Yeah.
It's easy to read.
Thank you.
Okay, and it flows. So I'm just telling you, if you're interested in this stuff, pick this book up. Okay, and they can only get it through you. Is this on Amazon?
No, they can get it through Author House, Amazon, any of the online booksellers. But if they want a signed copy, they have to get it through our
They want it
website
signed with
the thumbprint.
thumbprint.
The proof is my signature.
Go, and the website's what? We'll put.
It's JFK Murder, jamesfiles.weebly.com.
Oh my goodness, say that again. JFK.
JFK Murder, James Files, all one word, lowercase, .weebly, WEEBLY.com. Sorry, it's a free website. You get what you pay for, but hey, that's the name and that's what it is.
I do recommend this book to you. If you're interested in this one. And James, do you want me to talk about that book?
No, because they can't get that one.
They can get this book, Interview with History.
No.
This is the one that I finished when he was still in prison.
Okay. Yeah.
They can't get the first one that he asked me to write, To Kill a Country.
I know. We'll talk about that book in a second. But this one they can still get.
Yeah.
And a lot of this is in here, but still, this is some other material. It's not.
There's a lot of similar material, but this one goes into way more detail. This one goes into a bigger overview, too.
Yeah, you hold them up and do that same thing. Say what you just said. Like when the Interview with History goes into.
And we wrote this when he was still in prison, and I think it got published in 2009. This book got published when he got out of prison in 2020.
Yeah. So I think one of the things that's so hard, I want to make sure people have those resources because they're great, right?
Thank you.
A
A lot of work.
But yeah, I know it's a ton of work. Did you write it here or Ellie?
I wrote this one in Maui.
Valley.
This one I wrote up in Inglewood with,
When you live in Inglewood.
shots being fired across the living room. A gangbanger across the street did have a shootout, and it was, this got published in, I think, May, and then in June of 2020, almost got a bullet through my head.
So,
But they weren't trying to shoot me. It was just they were trying to shoot each other. Their car got shot, the house got shot, everything got shot. But
let's go back to that day because I think one of the things that is hard thinking back to the Kennedy assassination is, we think of today with all the surveillance cameras and all the, everybody's carrying a video camera with their iPhone and whatnot.
right.
I mean, the Zapruders, I'm even surprised that people let the Zapruder film. And do you think the Zapruder film's been altered, by the way?
Yes, it's been a little altered
Yeah.
many times over. And I've had several people recently ask me to change my story and state that the limousine stopped. And I refused to do that, to redact my story, because the limo never stopped when I had John F. Kennedy in the crosshairs.
It didn't stop till or it didn't stop?
It did not stop as long as I had him in the crosshairs.
Yeah.
Once I dropped the hammer on him, I knelt down, put the fireball in the briefcase. I jerked the shell, put the fireball in the briefcase, bit it, and changed my jacket. I wasn't watching to see if the limo stopped or not.
So it could have, but you weren't watching it.
After I shot him, but before I shot him, it did not stop until I fired my shot.
And there was
if I stopped after that, God only knows. I don't know.
Yeah.
I never seen it stop. But I picked up the briefcase, my fedora, the jacket I reversed, and I walked away. And they ran around me on both sides looking for somebody with a rifle running through the railroad yard.
Who did? The Dallas cops?
I guess it was cops and people in civilian clothes and everything. They ran by me at the end of the big offense. George W. Bush Sr. was leaning against the building, had his left foot propped up against the building, and he's standing like on one leg and one leg against the building.
Yep.
And
the Dallas Tech building.
No,
The
depository.
School Bus Depository.
Across the street.
And so,
Across Main Street was the other one.
yeah. So George Bush Sr. was there.
Yeah.
And is any pictures capture him there that day?
There are some pictures, younger, and it's his physique, and it's him. And that's exactly where he said he was standing.
Yeah. And what's interesting,
There's one other lady that saw him that was crouched down in her car that was right in the parking lot having her lunch.
she was just happened to be there.
She was having her lunch.
Sure, for the school book depository.
And we have no idea who she is.
Yeah, I got a picture of her in there. I got it on one of the things there. I don't know where's that now. Do you know where it is?
Somebody that used to go to Dealey Plaza all the time, Michael Brownlow, he talked to her, and I guess we have her picture in her little obituary thing, but I think she died in 2016.
Yeah.
But she didn't want to be another casualty, one of the dead witnesses.
She saw you. Did she see you shoot or did you see you walk away?
She saw me take the shot,
Take the shot and
walk away.
put the stuff away and walk away.
She just never
She scooted down in the front seat of the car. She's looking, peeping over the dashboard as that's walking away.
Before she died, did she ever tell anybody she
She told the people in Dealey Plaza that that's what happened.
Like how much later?
Like
I don't know how much.
like almost to her death,
But you have a picture of her, not a picture with her. She never met you.
No, never met her.
We have a picture of her in her
I walked by her and I looked
car,
at
whatever
her
it's called, the
sitting here
thing.
in the car.
But she saw him.
It was the evening of Beverly Oliver. She was, I don't know, just a few, not too far from me. What, 30, 35 feet?
Across the street.
No, Beverly Oliver was across the walkway right there on the grassy knoll on the other side by the...
She was in that middle section. She wasn't on the knoll
Yeah.
side. She's in the
Middle
middle
side, yeah.
section. And she
So
took a
make it-
picture, but then they took her camera.
In terms of obviously to the world, because it's such a crazy story, but when you put your shooting JFK in a list of your life experiences that mark you.
I put it way down at the bottom compared to some of the jobs that I did.
Yeah, that's what's amazing. That's what I'm picking up is that, so if you had 100 jobs and it was more than 100,
Yeah.
right? But to you, and you've really pretty much said
Let's
it.
put it this way. You spend a whole day crawling slowly, the entire day, where you're only moving an inch at a time across the field to get lined up to shoot somebody. This is your primary target. And you know they're going to be making a speech that night, that evening. That's a lot more different than walking up behind a picket fence to Dealey Plaza.
And you guys were so confident that, because you're even biting the shell, that was a pretty arrogant thing to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
You were young, 21?
Yeah, 21.
Just, you felt invincible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. Here's my little mark, right?
It was like with Chuck. We used to bury people. We have somebody in the truck one day, and I stopped at Nestle's 5 and 10 store. I ran and I bought a pigeon. And I come out and Chuck says, "What the hell did you have to go shop for?" I said, "Buy this pigeon."
A canary.
Canary, yeah.
Or
Canary.
parakeet,
Canary.
one of those little birds.
Yellow bird, anyway.
In a 5 and 10 store, they shot birds back then.
Yeah. And so I bought the bird, and Chuck wanted to know why. I says, "Because I broke his neck, and so I was sticking the guy's mouth and bury him." So they dig him up later when he was, canary was singing to the feds.
Singing to the feds.
Yeah. I used to put a nickel and dime on their eyelids, and there when we bury him.
Because
So I could say, why? Let them know. Guy was a nickel and dime gambler, nickel and dime thief.
that was you wasn't a pro.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. And so, yeah. And I mean, when you look back, I mean, just honestly, does when you think of the stuff you've been through, does it seem surreal to you?
I try not to think about a lot of it. There's certain things. Hamlet brought a lot of memories out. And like I say, the bad stuff, the real hard stuff, is not in these books. I didn't put them in the book because those secrets I'll take to my grave.
Did you have remorse?
I've given Jesus Christ my remorse and everything. I have remorse now. Like I said, I asked to be, forgiven for it all. And I want to repent. And I'm apologizing for all the people that I've killed and for all the people that I've hurt. And people that I deceived and everything. And like to get there, go to a cocktail party at a meeting somewhere where they're having a thing with a lot of officials there. I forget what the hell they call them now. Anyway, go in there, meet the guy, shake his hand, hugging, kiss him on both cheeks, tell him we're going to be good friends. And it's going to be because I want to meet the primary target. I want to know what the guy looked like. If they didn't have a complete layout on the guy, I'd go there and meet him in person. Knowing 24 hours later, I'm going to kill this guy.
James Files, when he wasn't in prison, had to call the CIA every day to see if he had a assassination assignment. I didn't know that
I called
before I met
Phillips, is who I call. I called an agency, gave him my number,
every day.
and I didn't give him my name. I just gave him my code number, and
What was your number?
we won't even discuss it. Yeah.
Multiple digits or?
Do you remember it?
Yeah, I remember it. 4 digits.
Okay.
And so anyway, they would word me through to David Phillips.
Yep.
2 of the numbers would put me through to Phillips, and 2 of the numbers were my numbers, signifying who I was. So I had 4 numbers to give.
He had George Bush's number to give somebody too, right?
And you said George Bush Sr. did you some solids. He would always get a plane to you to get you out of whatever mess you were in.
Well, when he made deputy director, he come down to what we call Little Havana there outside Miami.
Yeah.
And he said, you gentlemen, you men, he said, no matter where you're at or what you need, he said, if it can be got to you within by airplane, he said, I'll have it there within 24 hours. And he kept his word to us.
Yeah. It's good. And we're not going to go into it, but again, they can read the book. You were involved in the Bay of Pigs training.
We got
the Cuban resistance, to Castro.
Yeah.
You were involved with a lot of the book that couldn't be written to kill a country, right? Or it was written, and the CIA was angry because you weren't going to let them redact it, because you basically wrote there how the United States was involved with overthrowing sovereign governments. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Chile was the one that was a big example.
And why did you feel free to talk about that, or feel obligated to talk about that? Why did you want to write that book?
I don't know, just as me and the CIA, we had an argument, and we got to where we wasn't getting along so well.
Yeah.
But the reason they didn't kill me early on was I was a valuable asset to the CIA. But once I went to Stateville, I was no longer considered to be a valuable asset.
They couldn't use you.
And so
How did they get you out of that? I mean, I read your story about the thing you finally went to jail for.
I got out of the federal case after I served a little bit of time on it. George Bush got me out. He was vice president at that time. And like I say, the mob, I was always valuable to the mob. They trusted me, and I knew a lot of the secrets, and they knew I'd never talk. They knew I'd die first.
But they finally let you go to jail over a crime that you thought was a hit on you for $50,000.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Why did they clear that up? Because it even looks like
The agency or the mob?
Well,
The mob had no authority over that.
right. So, but more the agency. Why did the agency still want you to be an asset that could operate?
Well, it's a long story. But Bill Clinton was running for president at the time.
Okay. Yeah, we need to talk about
And
this.
they wanted to tie up the loose ends of Mena, Arkansas. I don't know what you know about Mena, Arkansas.
Well, you told me you were the last person on the runway with Hillary.
Mm-hmm.
Was a plane load of drugs that was coming in that they were overseeing.
So
Yeah.
they decided to close the after I got out of prison this last time. Nick and all of us was having breakfast, and with one of our people in Chicago. He would go to the White House every week, once a week, to see people there and talk to people. And so Nick asked me, "Hey, do you ever see Hillary there?" And he said, "Yeah, I see her every time I go there." He says, "Give her a message." The guy said, "What's that?" He says, "Tell her Jimmy Sutton said hello." Because Hillary had only known me by the name of Jimmy Sutton at the time, so. Anyway, so
what years was this?
this was right after I got out of prison, 2016.
Oh, you said that. But when were you doing that stuff with the Clintons in Arkansas?
Oh, I wasn't doing it for the Clintons. I was just flying drugs. As far as that concerned, it was for the CIA.
It was for the CIA.
I didn't even know the Clintons were that much involved in it,
Yeah. Have you? And they were only involved in it, I guess, because it happened in their state, or were they involved with it with other ones?
I have no idea.
They were involved by being the governor and then by getting the distribution through their Tyson chicken trucks all over the place.
I will tell you, like I told Pamela when I first met her, I'm the least curious person you're out in America. And least curious person you'll ever meet. Yeah, I never ask questions.
And I'm the most curious.
That's what you said. The miracle of your relationship is that's probably why you're still alive. Is you don't talk and you're not curious, right?
Yeah, that's it.
And which is, but now
When I got an assignment like even with the mob, the outfit there in Chicago outfit. They tell me go ahead somebody. I didn't ask them, why do you want this guy in? It didn't matter. You're paying me. You're asking me. You're sending me. I work for you. I'm not to question you. I don't know the overall picture. I don't see the big picture. I do whatever I'm told to do.
Yeah.
And that's what I do.
And but again, James, there's a very famous story in the scripture of a centurion, right, who had a sick daughter that he loved, and he went to Jesus and he said, "Listen, I've come because my daughter's sick and I've heard you can heal." And Jesus said, "Let's go." And he said to him, "That you don't need to come with me. I too am a man under authority. I say to this man, go, and he goes. This man come, and he comes. Just speak the word. I know my daughter will be well." And Jesus says, "I've never seen such great faith." Right?
Right.
And so now, if somebody told you, I want you to do this,
I wouldn't go do it.
right, because you're a man under a different authority.
Yeah, under different authority, you know. Before I lived with the Chicago mob, we had what they call the La Cosa Nostra. I was never a member, but I was only an associate, and I worked for him. And the La Cosa Nostra means this thing of ours.
This thing of ours.
And it comes before God. It comes before mother, father, wife, and children. It's first, number one, always, this thing of ours.
Which is why, even though Roselli and Nicoletti were buddies,
Mm-hmm.
or Giacomo, when it was time to move Giacomo on, Roselli would just say, even as close as we are,
Yep.
La Casa.
When you get the order, you do it. And they always send your friends to kill you.
And I asked you once if you would have killed Charles Nicoletti if they would have told you to kill him.
And I said, I don't know, but I probably would have.
Wow. And so it's just a matter of whoever, and again, I mean, what's so crazy, some of what you write about in that book is that you said Mr. Arcata took his orders from a gentleman named
High Lerner.
High Lerner. And High Lerner, you said, I don't know who he took his orders from, but it was somebody.
Yeah.
And do you believe that?
But if we wanted to put gambling casinos or any operations up in the Middle East anywhere, it had to go through High Lerner.
Yeah, High was of Jewish descent.
Yeah, he was the one. He was the one.
And had relationships in Russia. And
He was the true godfather as far as it goes.
Yeah. So let me ask you, this is a crazy question because Pam, in addition to liking, poisoned, not poison, what kind of cheesecake do we like? Passion fruit cheesecake. You also like President Trump, right?
He does.
Yeah. Do you do too?
Oh, Trump, he's my number one guy.
Okay. So
I see through
I
the
like
whole
she is
right left thing. So
no Trump. He's not perfect. He's not as good as everybody. He's never walked on water
right.
or anything else. But at least Trump has tried to get us, back on track and do a lot of good things for this government as far as I'm concerned.
Like our nation's administrations, like with Bush,
I don't even want to talk about the Masons. I got no use for them.
Okay.
And that's got a reason why.
Okay. You want to tell me the reason why?
Yeah, an ex-father-in-law of mine. There was my ex-wife's father. He was a Mason. I forgot what number it was anyway. I was on trial in Fort Worth, Texas, and they're the ones that gave me the federal time, and I went to federal prison for it. And he was a Mason. The judge is a Mason, and all I had to do was make a phone call to get me out of it, and he didn't do it.
I wouldn't do it. How long did you serve that time?
7 years and 4 months.
Wow. But like all of our administrations, like when you in your book, there's one of the craziest things in that book is maybe an alternate origin story for President Bush.
oh yeah, he doesn't even know half the stuff.
Okay,
that's in the
that's fine. So I mean but James, knowing like looking at the Obama administration, okay, do you feel like all of our government, in your opinion, has always been answering to somebody, or or the reason that Kennedy got in trouble is because he didn't want to answer to anybody, right? I'm not going to answer the CIA, and I'm going to.
Well, he tried to destroy the CIA.
That's part of the reason they were willing to get rid of it.
Or realize the Vietnam War, or put the money system on notes instead of Federal Reserve notes.
When JFK surrendered the paperwork to dismantle the CIA, that is when they called Chicago, and they gave Chicago the green light. Because they wanted to do JFK because you double-crossed them.
Yeah.
You don't double-cross the mob and walk away.
Or the CIA in that sense. You double-cross the mob because the mob helped get him elected.
Yeah.
And how do you think the mob helped him get elected?
By forcing a lot of people and the polls and people in charge of places, and by stealing vote boxes and everything else that had to be done.
Yeah. And you think election fraud way?
Cook County, Illinois.
More people dead that voted in Cook County than was alive.
You mean for that election?
Yeah.
And then, so, even like how Obama came out of nowhere and his relationship with David Ayers and all this different stuff. Do you, are you even indifferent to our government? You don't really care if our government is a government of the people, by the people, for the people? You just never paid attention to that?
I look at it this way. I just don't trust the government.
Yeah. What, do you trust Trump?
I trust Trump.
Why?
Why? Because I think until he proves that stuff wrong and he doesn't do what he said he would do, then I'm going to trust him.
What do you think, Pam? I'm going to go back to what somebody told you one time, your pastor. Like, hey, you get involved with conspiracy theories, it's going to ruin your life. right? I mean, look, here's what I always say. I don't know what's true. Matt, we've had some amazing conversation. I don't know what's true. And what I do know, the one thing I'm all in on is the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Who's Jason Spence?
He's the pastor that told me that.
Oh, yeah.
He passed away
Has it ruined your life chasing all this?
in some ways.
They wrecked your life when she met me.
I don't get to see my grandkids anymore.
Because they're scared of you?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't
No, because this is full time and I can't
You-
get a break from
I was
that.
afraid to leave me alone.
Well, he can't be alone. If he could just go somewhere,
I
then
can't even get them to go to the bathroom. That's what she's talking about. It's got to be somebody there into the pots.
I want full to him before they're teenagers and let them get married and have their own kids, and then my great grandkids.
wait to see your grandkids. We're gonna take care of that, right? I mean, you need to know your grandkids, and James, you need to meet them. And
That's not necessarily true. I need to see him.
yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. And I will.
I told her she wanted to go see him, go over to Hawaii, spend a couple of weeks there and see him.
I had a ticket, and then you got hurt, and then we couldn't get you.
Yeah, I tried to get you to go.
He needs a babysitter, and his babysitter's in Virginia.
Do I need to do some marital counseling here?
Jim Scott, friend of mine. Matter of fact, if you want to talk to him, I'll give you his phone number. You can talk to him. Jim Scott,
He's the one that's
offered to
saw
secure
his
the
books.
Hawaii,
Buy the book.
and for me to come stay down there with him a couple of weeks, 3 weeks, and get my eyes operated on, because I'm blind in my left eye almost. I close my right eye. I can see a blur sitting there in that chair, but I can't tell if it's man or woman.
Yeah. Well, I'm a man. Can you tell
Yeah.
the depth of the voice?
So, and I got my right eye open. I can see it.
Not my gender.
But anyway, he went me on. He says, come down there, stay with him, get my eyes fixed, and he'll pay for that and the whole thing on it.
He's just been touch and go. I've been having to talk to Camp Butler, the Veterans Military.
We went there, took a whole bunch
cemetery.
of paperwork in there, letters, documents, and everything else, and
Nobody will acknowledge that he's a
they
veteran,
will not.
that he was in the 82nd Airborne, because, he's not going to live forever. And when that does happen, I want him to go and do a veterans.
We left the office, and within 5 minutes, the FBI stormed it because they had their headquarters about 3/4 of a block from the Veterans Affairs.
Down at Springfield, that one.
And when we went following week, we saw Brady again. He told us about it. He said, I'd never seen it. He said, they got him in here. He said, they were so excited. He said,
Not in a
I
good
didn't
way.
know what was going on, he said, but they were talking about the danger and everything else, he says.
James, are you scared today that somebody's going to
No.
want you to quit talking?
No, I'm not scared. They walk in and put a gun in their head, I'm still not scared.
You're
And
ready.
you shoot me if you have to, do whatever you got to do.
But,
I fear for my wife, I fear for her.
yeah. And like you said,
They got to get through God.
you're comfortable now because of the fact that that FBI agent through the chiropractor who was a wannabe mobster, right? Who took that little comment you made in Daily Plaza one day. What's his name?
Timothy Hillregal.
Yeah, Hillregal, who said something, and he's the one that eventually, when he burned his house down,
Yeah.
right? Again, all these are in your book, this story, and the FBI was investigating him for arson. He started saying, well, what if I give you some information? Will you like my sentence? He's the one that told.
Yeah.
He said that when he's driving through Dealey Plaza.
Yeah, and was it Shelton? Is that his name?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Shelton.
Jack Shelton. Yeah.
Zach Shelton, yeah.
Shelling.
Shelton.
Shelton. Forget how it is.
He's in here.
Yeah, Jack Shelton.
Jack's in here.
And he's still alive, lives in.
We called him, wished him happy birthday on
I
first.
respect him because he said he got you clean. He got you right. Without
Got me right and got me clean. Somebody helped me more than it hurt me. We were sitting having lunch together one day. I think we were at Charlie's. He leaned over and he whispered in my ear and he says, I didn't know you had 28 years in with the CIA. And I said, yeah. He said, and I didn't know where you lived at. And he said, and all the trucks were buying from me, they loaded with beef. He said, we're parking in front of your house.
crazy.
I started to tell you what the bakery was where we used to get the cannoli sat panel and me went in there. And the guy actually remembered me. Yeah, you was the
It's like, here's the bakery, here's his house, and here's the National Guard where you just run across the street to get on the helicopter. But the bakery's right here. I remember seeing him getting on the helicopters.
So the movie Made in America, are you familiar with that movie? That's the movie about the Clinton?
About me in Arkansas.
me and Arkansas, yeah. Is it with,
Is that the from with Hillary and me?
Where's
Yeah.
my berry?
And that's what we were just doing. What was that whole operation about? Forgive me. It was about us
running drugs?
to Chile. And I to what?
No.
Colombia. Where's
When I was at Fort Bliss, we ran a lot of stuff to Chile. We ran stuff into Central America. And we started flying drugs back, landing in Arkansas. And I don't know who was receiving them, but they'd unload the plane. I'd get in the plane, fly it on to Arizona. And there's a lot there.
That story. So you thought it was actually one of the things you told me in our first
I
conversation.
thought it was the agency that wanted me. I told them, I wrote them a letter and told them I was Eileen Solid. I thought I was worth more than $50,000, at least $250,000. And Pamela talked to the cop on the radio, on the telephone.
From Hawaii, called
I
him
know you. She called out David Ostertag, got him on the phone.
just to see, hey, what happened?
Explained to him if he was writing a book, and she's telling my side of the story, and she wanted to tell his side. And he said, yes. So she told him, I need your name, I need the date, and I need your authorization. So he gave it to her. She's got it on tape. So after she tells him, she says, Jimmy said you had a $50,000 contract on him. And he just laughed about him and his partner.
Didn't deny it. Just
And we didn't deny it. He just laughed. And so about a minute and a half, 2 sentences later,
Well, we were
he told
talking.
us that he was upset with the government. Pamela asked him why. He said, they didn't tell me who I was up against.
yeah.
And then we started this conversation about how men like him need to be in serious debriefing anytime they go on a mission. And actually, they should actually have an island or something they should go live on with everybody like that and not be in society.
With all this, here's what I would tell you. With all the stories that are in that brain, the experiences, I mean, you'd be a guy that enjoy having a cup of coffee with you. You don't belong in an island. You're a pretty normal person, and frankly, very kind to talk to.
Hey, thank you.
I mean that.
Yeah.
Okay. Which is completely odd given what you've had to see, experience. I mean, the torture that you've watched other men go through,
Yeah.
right? We won't talk about where, but like, you know, that's pretty awful what you said about,
Yeah.
all right? And and that you've been tortured for 2 days, right?
I've been tortured more than once. But I had a 2-day session this time with the FBI, and that was their own government.
And they were trying to get you to talk about the money
Yeah.
at that point.
Talk about where
Did-
Charles
did I-
Nicoletti's diary, ledger, whatever.
Do you know where it is?
Yeah.
He burned it.
I burned it.
I was going to say.
And I got it on videotape where I burned it.
He still had it, but before I got here, he was talking about burning. I go, good. Why don't you dump the ashes on his grave, make a big circle? Charles Nicoletti gets his ledger back.
My friend, he photographed me with his camera. And I'm shaking the ashes out on the grave, on Kirk's grave,
the book.
telling him that you finally come home, boss.
Yeah.
And then when I found the cover at another house, I was like, what is this? And you're, oh, I don't need that anymore. And then I threw it away. And then I'm like, he tells me, oh, that was the cover for Nicoletti's diary. I'm like,
How many people did Nicoletti rub? How many people did he work?
I have no idea, but there was over 60 in the ledger at that time. Orders of the Chicago mob. They're strictly mob hits at that time.
It was just mom.
But-
You have
Kennedy was in there.
but November 22nd, 1963 was Kennedy.
It was in-
But
JFK.
as far as I'm concerned, it was still a mob hit because the mob ordered it.
because the CIA told
Yeah.
him how to do it.
Yeah, not because the CIA told him. The mob told Chuck to do it. And Chuck got me and told me to do it. So I considered it a mob hit.
But David Phillips the night before,
I met David Phillips the night before at a little restaurant down there, yes.
Yes. Yeah. But you had already worked with David.
Yeah.
And that was part of what you said in the book, just so people are trying to get the story, is that they sent Roselli there because if it went wrong, they wanted to say they were there to kind of prevent it, and the mob did it. And why?
Tosh Fomley was sent there. Tosh Fomley flew the plane in that morning. Tosh Fomley and this other guy in the agency was there, I forget his name. And in case the hit went wrong and Kennedy was still alive, they could jump out and they could say that they saved Kennedy's life. They flew in special that morning. They saved Kennedy's life.
Got it. And then what about the Mossad's involvement? They were there that day, yes?
The who?
Mossad, they had a helicopter
They had a
taking
helicopter in the
pictures.
sky.
That's what you told me a long time ago.
Time ago, yeah.
Yeah, helicopter, and no one's ever seen that footage.
No.
Yeah, and they were upset because Kennedy was trying to suppress the nuclear development.
Yeah.
So the mob was mad because he had double-crossed them on the...
Nobody liked Kennedy.
The bankers didn't like him because of the Federal Reserve money that he was trying to change.
The military industrial.
LBJ and all the contracts in Texas were not going to have realized with the Vietnam War
Didn't like him.
Hoover didn't like him.
Who?
Hoover.
Hoover. Because, he was going to take him out of being FBI director, and Johnson wasn't going to be vice president. He was going to go to
So
prison.
talk about LBJ. Do you think LBJ was involved as well?
Everybody said he was. I don't believe he was.
Did you
I
hear
got
the name that was released about 2 weeks ago from a family in? Did you hear about that, Jim?
No, and
Who was the name of the guy that you said was up in that lined the gun shells up there in the school book department?
Mac Mallows,
Who was LBJ's
yeah,
hitman?
killed his sister, among other people.
Killed LBJ's sister?
yeah,
Yeah.
my other people.
Yeah, he had his own sister murdered
So
because
you know, this-
she's going to talk too much.
2 weeks ago, roughly, there's a family that was, the guy was the grandson of a guy that had gotten a lot of agricultural contracts in order to
Henry Marshall.
make an immense amount of money that he was then funding LBJ's election. And it was a tape between this guy and the Democratic National Chairman talking about the fact that, that they had seen LBJ and this gentleman you mentioned, right? LBJ's hitman, that they knew he had killed 14 people, and they were concerned that they were going to get killed.
Billy Celestes.
Yeah, and they did it so that they would have some insurance. Like, you kill us, this tape's getting out there,
Mhm.
that we know you're involved. And is that pretty common? The guys would create some sort of insurance, like for themselves.
That's why Chuck had the ledger.
That's why Chuck had the ledger.
Me, I never had a ledger. Never kept a diary. Never asked questions.
But Chuck kept the ledger. Like, you rub me out. I've told one person to get this information out there.
Yeah.
You're all going to go down.
True. Chuck trusted me. Yeah.
Yeah. But when he got killed, you didn't feel like, as a matter of revenge, you should get that book out there for the people that killed your boss.
No.
Because yeah. Why not?
And I didn't know who killed him either. But,
Do you know?
I knew the government killed him. I knew the mob didn't kill him. And Chuck was killed at the Golden Orange restaurant in the parking lot. And he let somebody get in the back seat, and they shot him in the back of the head.
And do you know why?
Oh, he's supposed to testify before some committee and
Yeah.
what you call it?
House Select
Yeah.
Committee on
Do
Assassinations.
you think if you got before a committee, like if word got out you were going to testify before a government committee today, that you would make it to D.C.?
No,
You don't think you'd make it?
I doubt it. I know too many secrets. Her friend, and he got to be my friend through a couple of letters. Lieutenant Colonel Dangerous Dan Marvin was his name. He was Captain Green Beret. And
Lieutenant Colonel.
yeah, Lieutenant Colonel. He got himself approved and two other guys from Vietnam approved to talk about Vietnam before Congress. And he tried to get me approved, and it denied my approval, and he declared me a threat to national security.
He was ordered to kill the leader of Cambodia, and he wouldn't do it as a Green Beret.
He wouldn't. Or,
No.
you know, this other gentleman. Give me
Dangerous Dan.
Dangerous Dan.
Yeah.
They would have sent me, I would have done it, because
then-
at that time I would do anything.
He wasn't that old and that unhealthy, and he thinks that they took him out because he was drawing too much attention to the CIA's operation of killing foreign leaders.
So that book you wrote, though, To Kill a Country,
Mm-hmm.
you said you and the CIA were kind of crossways, and you say this was the CIA's playbook.
Yeah.
At how we overthrew countries.
Yeah, we tried 3 times to beat Allende at the polls. In Chile, we couldn't beat him. So they took Allende out of power, and they put Pinochet into power, and we ended 80 years, not good government, but decent government, to put the worst regime in they ever seen. And
Same thing with like Noriega. We were involved with all that.
yeah, I like Noriega. Everybody said Noriega got arrested today. I said, hell, he wasn't arrested. Noriega got rescued. The people in that Panama wanted to kill him. And that was it, because he crossed them and had taken, pocketed so much money.
Yeah.
So when you get power, you're greedy. You need the money first, and then you get the power. When you get the power, you get more money. Next thing you know, you never have enough of anything. They turn on each other, and they start killing each other.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, James. People, you don't talk to very many people. Again, this has been, it's not enjoyable talking about heart and sin and whatnot, but it is.
I thank Pamela for me talking to you.
I like it about just talking about true history and the truth about what happened to our country. Yeah, that's what I always
I
say.
tell people all the time about conspiracy theories. So here's my take. I'm like, look at, I don't know. Dumber men than you have fooled smarter men than me. Okay? So I like, you say you're not curious. I am curious, but I'm also hopefully appropriately humble that I can't figure everything else out. But what I would say is that it's important that we talk and that we Come, let us reason together. And the only thing I'm hard to the whole on, the only thing I am certain of is the resurrection of Jesus Christ. I'm betting everything I got on that. I bet my due diligence on that event in history. Okay? And I believe it's reliable. And I believe it's the means through which that God declared with power, it says in Romans chapter 1, verse 4, that God declared with power that Jesus Christ is Lord by raising him from the dead. Okay? And James, that's our hope.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
And I, you know, I really mean this. Do you want to just you've kind of said it, but do you want to say anything to the people whose family and lives you've ruined? Like
Caroline Kennedy. He said before that he was sorry for her growing up without a dad.
I mean, I know you put the Kennedy assassination way down on your list of things that you've had to do.
Well, the Kennedys, I'm sorry for the Kennedy family. The kids having to grow up without a father. All those lies that the one that told around them and everything, and they never knew the truth. How's those kids? They thought their father was a murderer, which he wasn't. He never fired a shot that day. And I'm sure I hurt a lot of people, and I deceived a lot of people, and the things I've done overall time, and 20 years to do a lot of wrongs, believe me.
You said 20 years. It was
28 years.
28 years.
28 years you've done a lot of wrongs. I did a lot of wrongs. And so like I told God, I got a lot that I wanted to be forgiven for, but, you know.
Yeah. And I think there's power in the words. And he said, I'm sorry. But do you want to literally look at the camera and say, I'll never meet you personally, but please forgive me?
Yes. And I'll never meet you personally. But I'm asking for your forgiveness, and I hope you will forgive me for being the way I was and for what I did to disrupt your life. And I'm sorry about all that.
Yeah.
But I'm at the end of the road, and that's about the size of it.
Yeah. But James, it's up to people whether they forgive you, but we know that we need forgiveness in Christ. I'm so glad you found it. I mean, what a tender moment. And Pam, I know you pursued him. I mean, because your curiosity, but also you heard him say in his interview,
I guess I believe in God.
and you wanted to know he couldn't even got his chance. And that's the big thing for me. I just am so thrilled that you have peace, right?
And
Right. Therefore, it says, have been justified by faith. We have peace with God through Jesus Christ our Lord. And that's it.
Yeah. With the team that I led, surrender was not in our vocabulary. And we would not leave a man standing on the firing line alone. Everybody stood together.
And the stuff you're doing makes SEAL Team 6 look like, did your group have a name?
Well, we went by the name of Mirage. We were nothing but mercenaries. We were stone cold killers for the CIA.
I'm up by the name Mirage.
And Operation Group 40.
Operation Group 40, well, that was an intelligence group,
Yeah.
which was a lie, which is nothing but an assassination group worldwide.
And do you think those are still operating today?
I would say yes.
Yeah. Still Mirage is
Yes, but I have no idea. I've been out of the circle so long, and I've not asked no questions. I've not asked to see no people. And the only one I saw in the mob actually was Nick Keller and a couple of people up there in Lake County. And what was his name? He just got out of prison. He runs Island Lake.
Solid D.
Yeah, Sally D. Sally D. Los Santos.
Salvador de Laurentiis.
Yeah, he sent a message to me. He's disappointed they didn't stop and see him. And I asked him, I said, well, you didn't want me to bring the FBI, did you? Because everywhere I went, the FBI was right behind me.
Give me your quick take on the JFK film by Oliver Stone. I know you didn't like Oliver Stone.
I didn't care for him.
He showed up the film in Stateville. The irony that he didn't know that the JFK assassin was at Stateville, but he went there to film Natural Born Killers.
Rob Vernon told him that you were, didn't he?
But I mean,
He wanted to put me on film, but I wouldn't let him.
Mr. Files, you tell me that Oliver Stone just randomly got a relationship with somebody at Stateville, and that's where he did the movie Natural Born Killers. Yeah. And then that's when Rob Vernon said, you do know who's incarcerated there. And he wanted to talk to you. And you said,
I met with him several times.
And did you tell him the truth?
No, I didn't tell him about it.
Yeah.
And it was about, and I asked him one day, what are you doing with all these faggots around in the office? I'm in his office talking with him in Stateville. You got all these faggots hanging around. Jimmy, they're nice guys. You don't talk that way about them. He says, I'm a bisexual.
Oliver Stone said that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I jumped up out of the chair, and Bob Vernon almost fell out of his chair when I told him, what, you're up?
Yeah.
And I didn't want to say it now. You and your wife, but you know, he just looked at me, and I walked out of the office, and I wouldn't see him after that.
Wow. So did you know at the time he was going to make a JFK film?
I didn't know, and I didn't even want to.
Right.
Yeah,
But was he asking you about JFK though?
yeah, he wanted to get me on film.
And you said no.
No.
Yeah. And part of it was you just didn't like his character, and the other part you just didn't trust him in general.
What turned me off with Oliver Stone first was when he told me he was in Hollywood, and he had all kind of connections out there, and I said, "You're one of them, huh?"
Oh yeah. And so if you, you've watched the film, but you fell asleep watching it. You never really even seen it.
And which one's that? Oh, actually, I've never heard about it. I didn't even read books. I've tried to read hours about it that Pamela wrote.
You hold a gun to his head. He doesn't even know, like, the paper content in our book.
What's this?
The guy that wrote this book, Texas.
Yes.
Craig Zerbel.
Yeah, Craig Zerbel. He was a lawyer. He was a good friend of mine. He came to Stateville to visit with me. But he was hung up on LBJ was behind it all.
Yeah.
LBJ wasn't smart enough to engineer that operation.
He was in charge of the Texas division of the assassination, and he controlled Texas and the investigation.
Yeah, but LBJ, you're saying JFK, in your opinion, was not going to pick him to be his vice president because he was going to be in jail. There you go. We did that.
And Hoover was going to be gone.
Very big, LBJ solicities.
So a lot of people, when they come and talk to you, and not a lot of people get to, but
And then a lot of people have tried, and they've not succeeded.
well, I'm just, what question are you surprised nobody asked you?
I'm really not surprised at all.
Yeah.
Question.
Like if you were, but I'm thinking here, if this guy knew to ask this question, this is what he would ask me.
Yeah. Well, most of them that come to talk to me about the book, they hadn't even read the book, so they didn't know what to ask me.
Yeah.
And they never asked me any questions that was important. The only thing that was really interesting to ask me, did you really shoot JFK? I said, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm. It sounds to me, James.
If they would have let me a long time ago, I'd have got the JFK father a long time before then,
Yeah.
before JFK ever became president.
If they would have done what? Said,
They'd have let me, said it took the gloves off. They kept me on a close rein. Because John F. Kennedy, was the father was, Joe Kennedy was bad news.
yeah.
He wasn't nobody, he was nobody.
Yeah. And did he have much to do with the Chicago outfit?
No,
No.
no.
But he came in to make deals with them to get us elected. And yeah, he was a bad guy just because he was about his own power and getting his sons in positions of power. Is that your position?
I heard a story that the Democrat convention in California is where Joe Kennedy and H.L. Hunt got together, and they agreed that LBJ was going to be on the vice president ticket.
Yeah. What were you saying about the 6-book depository in the Hunt family?
That they're still behind keeping the
true story.
the true story from coming out. Like, they're not going to ever put, this book up at the 6th floor museum.
I got it. Because the reason,
Because they want to promote that Oswald did it, or that if there was a conspiracy, Oswald was part of it, and then he got killed, and then we'll never really know.
Oswald did not kill Tippit.
No.
He didn't kill Tippit. He didn't kill JFK.
And Tippit was killed because why? Because Tippit.
Him and Gary Marlowe, the Raven,
Yeah.
they were good friends. They met down there doing the Bay of Pigs thing.
Right.
At
But he was part of that.
the fishing camp that
Yeah.
Gary had.
Right, fishing cap. So anyway, so they became beer buddies, you might say. They'd go out and they'd have a few beers together.
So they knew each other. When they'd see each other, they would know each other.
Tippett got out of the car, that's why I never pulled his gun. He was seeing a friend. If I was to get out of the car, I wouldn't pull a gun when I'm coming up to you.
For sure.
I'd be looking to shake your hand or hug your neck, one or the other.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, the Raven, since nobody's supposed to know he was in Texas and Dallas that day, he pulls a 6 gun out and bam, 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 bam.
And that was all part because they were at that point pursuing Oswald because Oswald was told to go to the Texas theater.
Yeah, he got set up. Oswald was set up.
That was the rendezvous point.
He was told to go there too, but he wouldn't show up there.
They last.
I was told to go there the night before in case we had a problem.
Right.
They had flashed out of the country.
And so Oswald was there to get picked up. And then when he got picked up by the police, Oswald thought he was going to get off.
Yeah.
There was a phone call made. And then Ruby wanted it. You can see where it was just all collapsing.
Yeah.
Why was Ruby willing? Did Ruby think he was going to?
Ruby had cancer.
They gave him cancer in jail.
They might have had cancer before they gave it to him. But they gave him shots while he was in jail to make sure he died.
He was going to talk to that
The last
reporter.
person to see Jack Ruby in prison and which was on TV not long ago, just a few months ago, was anyway, they said Joe West was the last one to see what's his name, Oswald, in his cell. And
Joe West was the one,
Yeah.
the gentleman that was trying to lie to you.
they said on the TV, and it blew in my mind. They said Joe West was an asset for the CIA.
Wow.
And I was shocked when I heard it, and that was only a few months ago.
I don't know about that part.
Would you see that on, James?
It's on television. It's on probably Fox News.
Really?
It's either Fox or Newsmax. One or the other.
Surprised you? Because you really like Joe.
Yeah, thought the world of Joe West.
Yeah. And you
The only reason I did the first video confession of an assassin was because of his wife, because all the money that they got from it was supposed to go to her to pay Joe West his doctor bills and the hospital bills and everything.
wow.
Otherwise, I would have never done the video.
But you think he was working with the CIA? What you heard?
I don't know. I find it hard to believe, but it shocked me when I heard it.
Yeah. Wow. Well, listen, Pam, is there any question you're like, Todd, I can't believe you ever wanted to talk about this? Like, are you surprised that anything I haven't asked, or if I was smart, I would ask?
Oh,
She got more out of me than anybody else ever did.
Well, I'm glad. Listen,
I think that Dallas has a lot of situations in it still that they don't want the truth to come out about what really happened there.
were you saying how the city was complicit to what they allowed happen there?
And the memorial, they put that big cement block thing, like that's a big memorial.
I say, that was a main attraction. Look at how many people visit Dealey Plaza every year.
I'm just surprised they even left Dealey Plaza so people can go there and go, oh, wow, I can see how this did happen from
There
there.
on the street, I stood on it, right where Kennedy was hit by.
Yeah, they left the fence there, the grassy knoll, everything's still how it was. I would think that if they were that determined to get the narrative just for their story, they would have destroyed that by now.
Well, I think, listen, for years, Texas, Dallas did live under that shadow of it happened here.
Mhm.
What I think, Dallas is, and then they write about this, and they talk about in Dallas a lot about how, they needed to have another identity, and that's where Kennedy was killed,
Mm-hmm.
right? And by the way, Chicago was smart enough to say, we're not going to do it in our town. They bring too much.
Tony Carlos said if we was going
We
to,
can't make money here if they...
that was, if
Killed
we was going to hit him, I was going to spar from Joseph's restaurant. And that sits on a hill overlooking the Eisenhower Freeway there. Tony Carlos said, it is not going to happen here. And that was enough.
Wow.
When he said it had to be moved. And so we waited, I think, 6 months on it when we went to
To Texas.
Dallas, yeah.
Just wild. And I don't know why, but there's no question it's a tourist attraction. Like your son, when he said to me, what should I do in Dallas? I go, I don't know. Go see where Kennedy was shot.
Yeah.
And so I think they haven't gotten rid of it now. And I think the reason the story is suppressed in Dallas is not because the story is suppressed in Dallas. It's because the story is suppressed.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you said to that chiropractor? I can't remember his name.
Timothy Hillregal.
Bill Regal, when you were driving through Dealey Plaza, is true.
Yeah.
That America is not
Can't handle it.
if they knew what happened here. But with Trump about to release these files,
Yeah.
do you think there's going to be any reference to you in there?
No, the only thing it's going to say is Lee Oswald acted alone and there was no conspiracy. James Earl Ray killed Martin Luther King, which was another lie. And
Sirhan Sirhan didn't shoot Bobby Kennedy.
the guy that shot Bobby Kennedy, did the kill shot on him and Martin Luther King,
Same guy.
is still alive today. And don't you dare say his name.
So that guy's still alive
He's still alive today.
He's
Only
down in Miami,
months
Florida.
ago.
in Florida.
Yeah, good friends with George Bush Sr., and he's down in Miami, Florida.
And
He killed Martin Luther King, not James Earl Ray.
and same with Sirhan Sirhan.
Sirhan wasn't the one that made the final shot that hit Senator Robert Kennedy.
Yeah.
It was the Thane Caesar. It was I think it was a Wackenhut security guard that was in there.
I was out of the country at that time. I get a good alibi. I was in Central America. You ain't going to blame me for that one.
But the guy that killed Martin Luther King told you exactly where he was and what he did, and it was just him, and then he just drove away after he did it. And he shot him at that Lorraine Hotel across the street. There's another grassy knoll that he was on, and then shot him, and then
So James Earl Ray, though, thought he was going to shoot him. Yes? No?
No.
he
James Earl Ray got set
was
up.
like an
He
Oswald.
was a patsy. He was another Oswald.
Never had a gun.
They left guns sitting outside the hotel door, whatever that had James Earl Ray's fingerprints and whatever. Why the guns were put there, I will never know. Sometimes they make up a crime scene and they do it half-assed. Excuse me, they do it the wrong way.
What do you think when this gentleman dies? Do you think his name will come out then?
No.
Probably not. So we pull a lot of operations together, and we was together, and I was there the night he cut Shay's hands off, and he sent one to Castro and he sent one to Langley, and he still got the one hand in a gallon jar today with formaldehyde or whatever, with a hand in the jar sitting up above the fireplace pickled.
Che Guevara.
Did he cut Jake Rivera's hands off?
Yeah, both of them, yeah.
And he sent one to Langley and one to Castro?
Yeah.
Well, then how's he have a third one that's on his...
He didn't. He sent one to Langley and one to Castro, but he got the one back from Langley, which was his. He just sent it there for them.
Is this guy single? Does his family see it?
Well, I don't know if he's married or not. I don't know if he's got kids or not.
And why did he cut off Shea Rivera's hand? You said, were you there?
Yeah.
Where did he do that? In Cuba?
No, Bolivia. It was in Bolivia when we caught Shea.
Yeah.
Well, he put the call in that night to George Bush Sr. and said, we got the bird in the nest, and it says, execute.
Yeah.
So, when you walked back in the room and you shot Shea in the head, we were all shocked. We'd been sitting around talking like we was all friends. Shea was a hell of a nice person to talk to, and we knew a lot.
Yeah.
He wasn't a soldier. He wasn't no mercenary. He was a revolutionary.
Yeah. Well, the things the world doesn't know.
There's a lot that they don't need to know.
And
He doesn't know that he was a Vatican assassin, and part of what I've been trying to follow since I wrote this book is I'm writing a book called On the Trail of the Vatican Assassins. It's like two books together. It's my book Vatican Assassins by Eric John Phelps and the On the Trail of Assassins with Jim Garrison. Combine that because my research has shown me that there's this whole subversive element of what's going on in politics and the government and the religion, and nobody talks about it. It's like they don't understand why there's all this illegal immigration and how did that happen. They don't look to the Jesuits and their long-range counter-reformation goals, and that's part of it. And I wanted to not only talk about JFK, but Abraham Lincoln, just how through history they've rewritten history and totally diverted everybody from thinking about them being part of it. Got Howard Hunt on the American Jesuits talking about that Chris Pinto film, how the Jesuits have the most elaborate, intricate intelligence system network, and he was a very high-ranking CIA official, and it's just not part of the conversation. You say, what should I ask about that? Nobody's thinking to ask that. Catholic Charities, bringing all these people into our country that shouldn't be here, and then they've got their hands on the kids too. The children that are coming, that are going missing, and we're missing a bunch of kids.
what do you think's going on there?
I think the Catholic Church is behind it, and the Jesuits are orchestrating it, and it's a really bad, evil, wicked organization that nobody wants to say, oh, we shouldn't do that anymore. Nobody wants to talk about getting rid of Georgetown and its influence on Washington, D.C. Nobody wants to talk about all these, Roman Catholic things that, you almost have to be a Roman Catholic to be in the government. Donald Trump's got his connections to that. He doesn't want to hear about all this. But it's really what's truly going on. And they're the people that are behind this communist, one world, dictatorship, digital currency, surveillance society, get a shot, die, we don't care, we're making money on you, the Bill Gates, syndrome. And the people that talk like that, oh, that's misinformation or disinformation, or you can't talk like that. Why not? It's the truth. That's what's really going on. That they're played left, right, Biden, Trump.
You hear that, right?
Pardon me?
When you hear stuff like that, you're disinterested.
Disinterested.
And yet not the details of why, but the reality of what.
I know the reality of life. on what happens that people don't know about. There's a handful of people that run the government, control the government. We think the presidents do a great job or this, that, or a bad job. They're following their orders. And whether Trump's getting his orders or not, I don't know. Probably is. But at least he's trying to help this country.
I agree. I mean, I do see. I mean, listen, if for nothing else, he's helping the country by just bringing moral clarity to the fact that we should be doing what we're doing to our kids with some of this puberty blocking and sex experimentation and this gender dysphoria and getting back to the clarity of binary gender.
It's just like I'm waiting to see if the story breaks. It's about the helicopter that flew in, was flying too high, that flew in.
Yeah.
It was a training session for the one female pilot. Right. The female pilot, believe it or not, was a transvestite. They converted from a man to a woman. And I'm waiting now to see if that breaks out. And you're wondering how I know that? Through Jim Scott, through one of his friends that has a lot of personal ties to that area there.
Has reached out to you and told you?
Yeah.
And
He's a former Marine helicopter pilot, and he still works with helicopters, so he's in that community.
And so you think on that particular accident that it wasn't intentional, it was just incompetence?
It wasn't intentional, it was just incompetence.
Yeah. And it was a transvestite pilot.
Training session, yeah.
Yeah. And so they say it was...
The female pilot was taking the training session. She didn't realize she was climbing that high.
Let's use the right pronoun. He didn't realize.
He didn't realize.
This mentally ill person.
A mentally ill person didn't realize that he was climbing that high when they was turning the chopper around to fly it back over the it's not a military base. It's more like a taxi cab stand. It's where all the big shots here in Washington, they don't want to fight the traffic. They call for helicopters, pick them up there, the White House, and they run out there, you got to jump on the chopper and go wherever they got to go. They don't have to put up with the traffic.
And so
this traffic is really bad there.
And so do you think there was anybody besides military people on that? Do you think they were shuttling somebody in that thing? No, it was a training session.
It was a training session for the young military rookies or whatever. People to fly helicopters, to fly senators and congressmen around or whoever needed to ride. That's what I think. That does not make it true. It don't make it fact. That's just what I've been told.
Yeah. But what he's alluding to is that there could have been one or two people on the airplane that they wanted taken out, and that could have been a convenient accident. Because
I was actually, what I was alluding to was there somebody from D.C. using the taxi cab to get him somewhere?
No.
Yeah, it was just a training session.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think.
But there's my whole book there, Defrauding America, with federal investigator Rodney Stitch, who's passed away, I think, 2018. Anyway, all these airline disasters, and you can testify yourself that even if they want just one person, they'll take a whole plane down of people.
Because I brought the explosives in from the Dominican Republic, and I got them under the name Sergio Castillo, and we used them to blow up Latiria, their own embassy row, which is known as a vacation embassy.
Orlando Latier.
And he was killed. Connie Moppet, she was killed. Michael Moppet was in the back seat of the Chevelle, and he survived.
Wow.
And the other part of the explosives went to make a bomb for the
Cuban airliner 455 that had a fencing team or some soccer team, a bunch of young people, but there was 2 communists on the plane that they had to kill, and they took them all down. Then that airplane 007, Korean airliner 007, that was shot down over by Soviet and Japanese airspace. One person on that plane they wanted to kill, Congressman Larry McDonald, that had a whole bunch of files and tapes on the JFK assassination that were going to be blowing everything wide open. And his plane got blown up instead. But
that was pretty recent.
Well, Reagan was president.
Oh, it was Reagan.
Yeah. But all those people die because one person needs to be taken out. Oh, Dorothy Hunt, right over there by where we used to live. Her plane got sabotaged with the gas tank.
Michelle Clark, yeah.
Because she was going to blow some stuff wide open.
Dorothy, she called Michelle from the payphone by their house. And actually the agency, the CIA, the payphone tapped. And she heard Dorothy tell Michelle to get on a plane and what kind of briefcase to bring with her. And they got on the plane separately and sat in different places. But they watched each other. One briefcase was up there, one was over here. And they got up, and the other one took this one out, the other one took the other one. And the plane crashed at 72nd and Wentworth.
Wolcott.
Wolcott. And
It's just a residential, one of those crowded neighborhoods,
I
right?
can't remember his name. Let's call him Johnny Bench. What was his name? I called him Johnny Bench all the time. I'd never forget his name anyway. He was hard to kill. One of the girls or two of the women, one or two, I don't know which. Anyway, he was very well mad. He was upset. When the plane crashed, he survived the crash. And
What's his name? Hal something?
no,
Anyway, but yeah, they took that plane down just to get Michelle Clark and Dorothy Hunt.
anyway, he was upset with the agency because they sabotaged the plane with him on it after he was supposed to kill him. But he was to know the girls
Metcalf.
were dead. Yeah, Metcalf, yeah.
And so you're saying they wanted to kill those two women because
She was going to blow
Michelle Clark
stuff
was
wide
very-
open about
very-
Nixon, Hunt, painted out Cuba, and
On the
keeping the secrets.
yeah, because I was amazed in your book how many of the people involved in the Kennedy assassination showed back up in the Watergate.
yeah.
He was involved in Watergate.
Games.
I wasn't bothering Watergate. I was outside while I was being down.
In a car with old,
Barry Seals.
good old Barry Seal.
Barry asked me, said, you got to go on with the second team. And I said, no, unless you want somebody killed.
There's even
And she said,
a part in here about it.
So you were there, and what do you think is behind the Watergate? Was it because Nixon didn't need it to win the election?
we set up the, they wanted to down.
They wanted the training film, and the training film showed him what was on the training film besides Lee Harvey Oswald.
We had made a stupid training film at the camp place
No Name Keys, Gator Ridge, one of those camps.
over there by Lake Ventura, where we raided at. And it
Oh,
was, yeah,
Lake Pontchartrain.
in Pontchartrain, yeah. And so we all jumping out of the deuce and a half, like Lee Harvey Oswald jumping out of the deuce and a half. Frank Sturgis is jumping out. George Bush Sr. is jumping out. I'm jumping out. Jerry Hemming, he jumps out. Oh, there's about, I think there's 14 of us or 15 of us in that deuce and a half. We all jump. We're running a training film. We jumped out of the back of the truck. We hit the ground. We roll. We come up. We got the rifles pointed out towards the perimeter. But yeah, we're all looking back at the camera. We're not looking down the sights. So everybody's face is on there. So the film had been stolen 3 times, and that's what got Barry Seals part of it, the reason got him killed. The night they killed him, he had the training film in the trunk of his car, and he had George Bush's own phone number.
That's what that says right there.
And so the Watergate thing was not about getting election secrets. It was about getting this.
That training film, so George Bush Sr.'s career could keep going on and on and on.
And are those tapes destroyed now?
Hell, I don't know where they're at now.
Yeah.
Probably in some bush
Me and Barry
basement.
Seals had at night. The last I know of, Barry Seals had control of the film, and next thing I heard was he was shot. They fired over 100 rounds. It was all 60 minutes. They fired over 100 rounds into his Cadillac. And when Barry seen them hitman coming with the gun, he just leaned over the steering wheel and put his head down. Me, I would have started it up and I'd hit reverse and I'd have been backing out of there while they're shooting.
And that's where they found in the trunk the training film and George Bush Sr.'s
Yeah.
private phone number.
They.
But
Who's they?
Guard,
the FBI
FBI.
came and swooped in
And God.
because they knew he was staying at the Salvation Army halfway house. And he's like, it's like a death sentence. They have access to me. I'm going to get whacked out.
What year is this?
1988, 89?
No, 85 or 86.
And yeah.
Right when George Bush Sr.'s, it matters if they find a
Wrote this book?
Daniel Hopseeker.
He's dead now.
He wrote a bunch of books about 9/11, training down at the Venice, Florida.
Okay, 9/11. Do you have a theory on that? You think that was what we?
That was an inside
I
job.
think that job had to be. No airplane's going to take it down. Look at that airplane that hit the helicopter or no, not the one that hit the helicopter. The airplane, there was a small Learjet that crashed in Philadelphia the other night.
Yeah.
Gases of fuel from the airplane washed for 3 blocks and caught houses on fire. Those wings would never withstand the pressure flying through the concrete building, like in the towers, and have all the fuel inside the building with it. All the jet fuel ran down inside the building.
So you
It was an inside job. Those are great big high beams are holding
Well,
the
then
building
that
up.
Building 7 controlled demolition. Oh, the plane didn't hit it. Oh, it just went down anyway.
So remember what we said at the beginning that
89.
going down these conspiracy theories, ideas will ruin your life.
Hey, I was in Stateville when the Twin Towers went down. I had no part of it.
Yeah. Yeah, we
Put that on the record. You're okay with the Kennedy assassination.
Yeah, I'm okay with Kennedy.
You're clean on the 9/11.
9/11, I had nothing to do with it. I was locked up, maximum security.
You didn't kill MLK.
Yeah.
You didn't kill RFK. You're good on those.
I'm
don't
good
ask
now.
him about Hoffa though.
No, don't forget Hoffa. I like Hoffa.
He's part of that too.
Can I tell you a crazy story about Hoffa? I was in elementary school with, I don't know if I should say her name or not, Barbara Crancer was in 4th grade. That's Jimmy Hoffa's granddaughter. And when he was killed, Barbara just kind of, it was like she was gone from school for a good while because of the crazy. I mean, think about how small that world. You were there when her grandfather lost his life.
Yeah. I was one of the first people to be questioned in Detroit. But Hoffa went to an incinerator. He wasn't buried. He didn't. Like they've been digging in landfills and horse ranches and everything else.
End zones of football stadiums up there.
Yeah. And I used to bet guys that Stateville, they wouldn't find Hoffa's body. And I'd give them 100 to 1 odds, which was a sucker bet. And I had myself, I had a stack of bags of coffee, peanut butter, all kind of cookies and cakes and Twinkies and stuff. And you name it, it was there. I've stacked in the cart. Somebody said, Boz, you got to get some of this stuff by there. I said, what do you got, $500, $600 worth of commissary in there? So you can't have all that commissary. She said, you got cases of Coke stacked up to the roof, but he's sealing it here in your cell. So I had 4 or 5 of the guys' whole commissary for me, and I gave them each a case of pop.
Because you knew his body was put into
Incinerated.
a trash burning thing, incinerator, and all his ashes went over Detroit.
Yep.
That's where Jimmy Hoffa's
That's
at.
why I would give them 100 to 1 odds, because I knew they wouldn't find a body. And like the one guy told him the great story. He had the perfect story. They put Jimmy Hoffa's body in a tractor and they hauled it all the way to Merlin to the landfill. And they buried it in the landfill. Why would you haul a dead body across the cities? Have so many states like that.
The car just got driven away with the body in the back seat.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Well,
The blanket was thrown over the body.
yep. Well, I mean, how, like you said, I mean, I'm really amazed. And what I don't know, James, is how much of this was the way you were raised. I mean, let's go back to the very beginning, that naval birthing program.
I was raised right off the bat to pull the trigger. That's what it
Tell him that your story about a little kid and what he did to your dog. And don't use the N-word. Just tell the story without the N-word.
Get that. No.
I think,
That's enough.
yeah, James, here's what I want to say to you. Please look at me, sir, and I think you understand the context which I say this. I have no idea what's true.
Yeah, I know that.
But
My life sounds impossible.
But I hope you appreciate the humility of my saying that, right? What I know, I do believe Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life.
I believe that too.
Yeah, I know. And that's the miracle, right? The miracle that you're alive, with the miracle that you could be forgiven, given your story. The miracle that we can live in a world where we don't know what is true, but that God, in the middle of that history of what we don't know about 9/11 and JFK and RFK and MLK and MK Ultra and all this other stuff that I don't know, I believe that God, in the middle of that history, put a cross in an empty tomb, just said, this is the pivot point of history.
And who would you give history to if you walked into a room and they put a gun to your head and missed Bert twice?
You say that again.
I said, how would you feel and who would you give the credit to if you walked into the room knowing that you couldn't be a made man because you had no Italian blood, right? And they put a gun to your head and they pulled the trigger twice and it clicked each time and missed Bert twice.
There's only one explanation.
There's only one exclamation.
And that happened to you.
Yep.
And why would they want to kill you that time?
I have no idea. If it's power stroke or proper territory.
Was that
We fought over territory all the time in Chicago.
outfit, guys?
Yeah.
And when that happened twice, what'd they say to you?
They didn't say nothing afterwards.
They just go,
I left 4 dead men on the floor.
wow. Because you got the gun and it didn't misfire after.
I didn't use a gun.
Oh, wow.
I used my hands.
All right, James.
I studied and trained. I had an old Chinese guy training me in Denmark, which they got a different name for in China. But here in the West, we know it as a Denmark. And it's where you learn how to kill with your hands. And you don't use a weapon. You become the weapon. And that's why I get a kick out of a lot of these karate movies they show you on TV. Is they fight and they beat each other after death. One simple blow kills them person.
Yeah. He said one simple blow can.
One simple blow can kill a person, yeah.
Yeah.
I could take the palm of my hand, I could stand up close to you, pop you right where the heart is. It's not how hard I hit you, it's how sudden and quick it is, and the shock stops the heart from beating
In the chest.
in the chest, and you die of a heart attack. Well, I can hit you in the head in several different places. I can drive your nose into the brain. I can hit you in the side of the skull by your temples and kill you in your temples. I can paralyze you by kicking the lower part of your spine to the back there. The different ways to kill people, there's different ways, and that's what Denmark is all about. And have you ever heard of the School of Americas?
No, sir.
Okay, we have one in South America, one in Central America, and one here in North America. One was in Georgia.
Court Benning.
Court that Benning there. And they, even though you know how to kill, they give you they fine tune you as a killer. They give you the expertise of it, or however you want to see it.
He went to that farm
You went
place
to-
too, the farm where
I
they
trained at the farm in Langley.
do all that extra training.
Well, let me just say this. Thank you for trusting me for the story. Thank you for the conversation. Thank you for not driving my nose into my skull. Thank you for shaking my hand. And
There's different ways to kill people. You got to understand that you don't need a knife for a gun
I
or a ball bat.
and I do know that. And I also know that our purpose in doing this is to talk about some of this. I want people to read. I think you've done some amazing work for folks to at least see the truth.
Thank you.
But, you know, I have a phrase which is Bible first, Bible most. And if people want truth, right,
That's where to get it the most.
the most is in God's word. And then if you want to hear about what we believe is potentially true with all this other history that's locked inside your life story, James, all these materials are great and to look at and begin to process. And
This is the newest one.
yeah, that's the one I just spent time.
When I gave my first interview, Confession of an Assassin, the government assigned a 40-man team. There might have been women on it, but I see 40-man team to discredit me. And they tried and they've tried and they've tried for years, and they haven't been able to yet.
So just to close,
And the FBI can prove that I was in Dallas that day, but they couldn't say that I pulled the trigger, dropped the hammer, because they knew I was there. They didn't see me actually do the deed. But they knew that I was in Dallas with Chuck.
yeah.
Anybody in their right mind would wonder why was Jim and Chuck me in Dallas if we wasn't going to kill Kennedy.
Yeah. Are you, the Zapruder film doesn't capture the grassy knoll shooter, does it?
No.
Yeah. And there's no video footage of you that day. Is there still an
As far as I know, there is. And
There is?
what people have claimed and said and told and talked about. Me, I always said, don't know, but the FBI knew about me. I thought, knew about me from a few days afterwards, but they knew about me from day one. I've come to find out.
That one Cuban snitch guy was Aldo Vera, and he told the FBI that you were there. So they've known since 1963, 64.
He was one of the Cubans I worked with in Cuba.
But he's not alive anymore, Aldo Vera.
What,
He died in the
Al,
70s.
as we close, I mean, thank you for your time. But you want
So
to,
you're welcome.
it's a pleasure.
Just that God is real and Jesus is alive. And I don't know if I live long enough to do the audiobooks, but I want to put the one book, Primary Target, into audiobook and the other two books also, but I don't know if I get around to that or not.
And you think of the stuff that's going to come out, you think it's going to be such hogwash that Trump's about to release.
Yeah.
It's good.
Why would they tell the public the truth now? Why would they tell the public? I have lied to you for the last 60 years because you're stupid. So after 61 years, I'm going to tell you the truth now. No, they're not going to do that.
But so what they're going to release is it was
It's
Oswald.
BS.
It's BS. So why? But why they kept that locked up? To, you know what I mean?
Don't ask me. I have no reason. I've never been curious, and I worked at TDY in the vault. I read a lot of documents, a lot of stuff there, and I don't know why they kept it locked up.
So you don't think anything's going to come out that's going to be?
Nothing's going to be. I wrote in to get part of my record from them, and they sent me, I think it's 23 pages, and every line was blacked out, including the ands and the ahs and these. I had 23 pages of ink, all black pages. I still got them, I think, downstairs locked up somewhere.
Oh, what's so great is that, listen,
That's what they sent me back.
I think this is a good way to land it. When we stand before the Lord and the enemy appropriately accuses us of everything we've done, It's not going to be black that covers up our name and all our work. It's going to be the blood of Jesus Christ.
Blood of Jesus Christ.
And so it's going to be redacted too, brother. And for that, I'm grateful.
And that book over there, hon, and right there, I want you to take it and get it copied, have it spiral bent and everything else, and then we'll mail you a copy of it.
God
Okay?
bless you. Thank you, James.
Because I want him to have that and I want him to read it and he'll understand a little bit better
Yeah.
the investigation that they did on me.
Well,
And there's the United States government. And all I can say is they lied too.
Well, like on the back cover of our book, it says 100 years from now, most history books will say Lee Harvey Oswald was the lone assassin and there's no conspiracy to kill President John F. Kennedy. Truth is, the CIA wanted JFK dead and they used the Chicago mob. Like I say, once the government tells a lie, they have to live the lie. James Spiles, the grousing old shooter.
it's a perfect way to end. Thank you both so much.
You're more than welcome. Thank you for taking time to come here to see us.
Yes, sir.